Dime qué tú quieres, papi. ¿Quieres que lo mueva para ti? Mueve, mueve. ¿Te gusta cuando me muevo así? Así.
Thank you, God, for this day. We have lived everything in our life, our health, our family, the guidance you have given us, allow us guidance to the path of righteousness. Amen.
Really, I'ma get that bitch. Revenge is a dish best served cold. She took my son, now my soul is cold. He took my daddy, now my soul is old. Yeah. Woke up.
Yeah, man.
That's hot shit right there, man.
So what we gonna do? We gonna dub?
King Chaka ENT. Y'all can check out the music on Spotify, Apple, and other services.
Looks like we got us another hit. Yep.
Yes, I am drinking. Recording this shit. Yeah. This damn green, man, it's got me sitting sideways. This damn lean, man, it's got me sitting sideways. I'm on the scene, man, I'm sitting sideways. You don't feel like me, that's why you looking at me. I'm riding clean and I'm flying down the freeway. Nowhere to be, so I'm taking me a free day. Difference of driving, best I listen to what he say. I'm higher than a child on the first day of pre-K. Drive slow, I ain't tripping on the delay. The cup I'm sipping on is giving dumb leeway. Anyway, the optimal action spilling on my khakis instead of an ashtray. Brush it off and keep it moving on. Shift my attention to what else I could be doing wrong. Sure, it's someone on my phone I could be screwing on. So you alone? Bring your whole crew along. Sit around the table playing beer pong. She drunk, she bending over and she got a clear thong. I'm looking from the back, man, I got an ass on. Wake up on my back, where the grass come from? This damn green, man, it's got me sitting sideways. This damn lean, man, it's got me sitting sideways. I'm on the scene, and you know I'm sitting sideways. You don't feel like me, that's why you looking at me sideways. This damn green, man, it's got me sitting sideways. This damn lean, man, it's got me sitting sideways. I'm on the scene, man, I'm sitting sideways. You don't feel like me, that's why you looking at me sideways. I'm the king and we gon' do the things my way. I wanna see you in skinny jeans on Friday. When I'm leaning to the left, you better be leaning in the right way. I'm cleaner than a washing machine. If you hyperallergenic, get your antihistamine. You're like a tightwad caught in between a full of latrine and a pistol with a fiend. Gotta get the cream is on top. ACE, we the team that won't stop. They calling me the dean cause I teach them what's hot. Thought you were the new thing, we can see that you're not. We have to get mean cause we're taking your spot. We wanna get a ring, sit in championship box. Call up your queens and tell them get blocked. When they see the muscle is supreme, your boys gon' kick rock. This damn green, man, got me sitting sideways. This damn lean, man, got me sitting sideways. I'm on the scene, man, you know I'm sitting sideways. You don't feel like me, that's why you looking at me sideways. This damn green, man, got me sitting sideways. This damn lean, man, got me sitting sideways. I'm on the scene, man, you know I'm sitting sideways. You don't feel like me, that's why you looking at me sideways. We thought you were the new thing, but we can see that you're not. Yo, we thought you were the new thing, but we can see that you're not. If you got your own and you clean, drop it like it's hot. If you got your own and you clean, drop it like it's hot. Everybody say wow. How you gon' jock my style? 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 This chick remind me my drink. Yo, this bitch is drunk on my drink. Yo, this trick is smoking my dang. I want her to stop, but I can't. I'm leaning to the side, man. I'm leaning to the side, man. Yo, everybody vibing, the lights flashing, ain't nobody hiding. We full of passion. I see this chick smiling with her action. She said she from an island. I'm just passing. I said stop lying. We started laughing. Girl, what you drinking? I'm on that captain. Now we on pink panties with a napkin. I got a blunt dipped in brandy that we passing. Now we leaning to the side in the bass bay. She feeling on my thigh, my chain swinging. Feeling alright now. The game changing, right on time now. We both swaying, do that new style now. Bojangles, I wanna see your tatas. Those jangles, what about on our guys? I need angles, call me your papa. Grab your ankles, move like chaka chaka. When it's anal, I got to get ya. And it's painful, split you like a swisher. With a label, you know we can make it without being naked. We can make them think we faking, shake it, make me take it. Yo, this chick remind me my drink. Yo, this bitch is drunk on my drink. This trick is smoking my dang. I want her to stop, but I can't. I'm leaning to the side, man. 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 If you got a cup, put that shit up. Lean it to the side, lean it to the side. If you got a fat cat and your drawers and bra match, lean it to the side, lean it to the side. If you just got off of work and your fucking feet hurt, lean it to the side, lean it to the side. If you shine fly and everybody know your ass high, lean it to the side, lean it to the side. If it's getting hot and you drink Henny on the rocks, lean it to the side, lean it to the side. If you a hot girl and you can stop and make it pop, lean it to the side, lean it to the side. Yo, this chick remind me my drink. Yo, this bitch is drunk on my drink. Yo, this trick is smoking my dang. I want her to stop, but I can't. I'm leaning to the side, man. I'm leaning to the side, man. I'm leaning to the side, man. I'm leaning to the side, man.
Yeah, man.
That's hot shit right there, man.
So what we gonna do? We gonna dub that?
Yeah, man, let's do it, dog. Let's get it done, dog. You know what I'm saying? It's hot shit.
Hey, so y'all load that down right quick, bro? I got a little message or something, you know what I'm saying?
Hi, this is Dr. Nicole calling from Fort Plaza Hospital to inform you that Catrell Williams has died with multiple gunshot wounds to the head at 4:45 a.m.
Man.
For further information, you can contact the hospital at 713-229-8618.
Man, these niggas fucked up. Oh my God. Yo, fucked up. Black bandana, the finger on the hammer. You won't see these apes go bananas. Ride with the heat, ride with the heat, ride with the heat, ride with the heat. Yeah. Black bandana, fingers on the camera. You won't see the shit go bananas. I'm a jail type nigga. Give a hell about hell, my nigga. Flame was doing fine till they killed my nigga. Now I gotta touch him up, rough him up, fuck him up, bucking stuff at his family. Killing his people randomly. Man, nigga gon' handle me. Him a nigga, he ain't die in vain. I'ma ride on his name and shoot 5 in the sky. And them niggas who killed him must be ready to die. They could give me the chair because I'm ready to fight. Real niggas ride with that grown and they niggas is gone. Pull out a whole 40, taking scotch to the dome. Yeah, black bandana, fingers on the hammer. You don't want to see this tapes go bananas. I ride with the heat, ride with the heat, ride with the heat. You got die, motherfucker. Black bandana, finger on the hammer. You don't want to see this tape go bananas. I ride with the heat, ride with the heat, ride with the heat. You got die, motherfucker. That was my nigga since a little boy. When we was playing with them little toys. And now I got a kill boy. He was a killer gorilla. He taught me everything. Swear to God on my mother, my brother, the chopper sang. Hey, any nigga who I thought who did it. I'm coming, homie, and I'm coming to get it. What? I smell revenge is all in the air. I'm fucking at your kids cause the boy don't care. You ain't care when you took my nigga life. So I'ma show you what the pipe and the other side like. Yeah. Die, motherfucker, get the fuck out of here. See my partner gone, he got the fuck out of here. Cause the pussy niggas just like you. I'm a gorilla piranha like him, I'm about to bite you. Don't wanna fight you, hit you with that pipe, dude. Show you what the other side like, dude. Hey, it's not a game, man, you know what I'm saying? I'm a real nigga, you know what I'm saying? I believe if a nigga take my nigga, you know what I'm saying? I'm taking his nigga, I'm taking his family, I'm taking his sperm, I'm taking his kids, cause I'ma shoot him in his nuts, you hear me? Real gangster.
Hey, how y'all doing out there? How y'all feel? Remember, we want you to be an activist. Don't take our word for it. Look that mess up. Thank you, God, for this day we have lived, everything in our life, our health, our family, the guidance you have given us. Allow us guidance to the path of righteousness. Amen. Amen, amen, amen. How y'all feel out there? Y'all feel good? It's good to feel good. We're back. Another installment. Hopefully we can get some people in here. Let me see. The one about the dude who's climbing the power lines and shit. Somebody was telling me about that story and I didn't even know about it at all. And now it's all down my timeline. Let me see. I know I have it here. Where is it? Here it is.
Dangerous situation as he is literally
dangling and just trying to switch over to the other side using several power lines as his base to just basically use some more, you know, as a base to hold on.
Those power lines. Dangerous situation as he is literally
dangling and just trying to.
This guy must know his shit, because anybody up there like that, they either really, really stupid or they know they shit as far as the lines that'll get you and the ones that won't. Shoot, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I understand it a little bit, but not enough to be up there like that. Fuck around and die. It says a standoff is underway after a naked man hopped on top of a rooftop in Northwest D.C. Wednesday afternoon and began firing shots. Authorities say that there is currently no active threat and the man has since put on his clothes. However, they are still working to apprehend him. Police believe the suspect is an adult male experiencing a mental health crisis. Yeah, that does look like a mental health crisis. This is different. Is this a different one? It says an armed and dangerous man has been shooting people in random attacks across Memphis Wednesday night while live streaming his shooting spree on Facebook. Memphis police warned residents to be alert and watch out for a suspect, 19-year-old Ezekiel Kelly, believed to be responsible for multiple shootings in the city. Man, people are wilding out, man. It's crazy out here.
I don't do what them niggas say. No faking. No faking. Hear me? This shit for real. Oh, my mama, Kate, how you think I'm playing? Kate, I'm for sure this shit real. This shit so real, man, guy. I don't wagging shit on camera. I pull up and do this shit, man. I don't do what them niggas.
Alert, armed and dangerous. Be on the lookout for a male, black, occupying a blue or silver sedan, possibly an Infiniti or Nissan, who is responsible for multiple shootings. We're getting reports that he is recording his actions on Facebook. We do not have a specific location of where he is now. If you have any information of his whereabouts, call 911 immediately. We will provide more information as it becomes available. Sound pretty crazy. The suspect has been identified as 19-year-old Ezekiel Kelly. Suspect is currently in a gray Toyota with Arkansas plates. If the suspect is seen, call 911. What do y'all think? First comment says, what even has this world come to? God help us. Everything about this is sad. That's wild, praying for victims. Now he tweaking. Bro, what the F? People are truly lost. This literally the plot of Spree. What does that mean? Rap? Nah, this is nuts. I seen this before. They took it off his page. We don't do shit like this. Crazy. Believed to be responsible. That nigga live with it. They got him. That's a crazy story right there. Just like the other one's kind of crazy too. The guy on the power lines. They say he was naked shooting at people on the roof. For me, it just sounded like desperation. That's the reason why I kind of wanted to touch on these, is because I don't know anything about those stories. But people are losing it, man. You can't just keep doing this thing that you're doing and expect things to not freaking start busting. The water pipes are busting, man. The powder keg is getting ignited, bro. You can't keep sweeping shit under the rug and expect nothing to happen. I mean, when does it come to a point where you realize that you can't even walk through the room because there's so much shit underneath the rug? Now, I don't even know if I really want to cover this, because this one right here is touchy.
What are you doing? Nothing? There's like a whole bunch of beer over here.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
On this evening, July 27th, San Rafael police officer Daisy Mazariegos confronts three men, including a popular Marin County gardener we'll call Mateo. He asked me not to use his real name.
No, I don't have nothing to say.
You don't have nothing to say? You're just out here drinking and you think it's funny?
No, it's not funny.
Okay.
Then in Spanish, Mateo explains he and his friends like to drink beer after a long day of work, and that they come to this area because neighbors at his apartment complex complain when they're loud.
Los tres.
Mazariegos asks for ID, and the tension builds after Officer Brandon Nail arrives. 6'2", 250 pounds. He towers over Mateo, who was just 5 feet tall, 130 pounds.
Hey, sit the down. Hey, you don't have to talk to me.
Well, I told you to sit down.
I know.
You know what? What are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? There's like a whole...
Yes.
It appears Mateo is trying to cooperate, but he has difficulty finding his ID without standing up to reach into his pockets.
Take out your ID,
I know. I have to take it out, but I have to take it out to take the ID out. You know?
Sit down. Just
I
sit
know,
down.
but you
Sit
have to
down.
understand.
Okay.
Hey. Do anything.
So yeah, I don't really like playing that kind of stuff, but they busted this dude's face all up. It says San Rafael, California. An investigation is underway after questions about an open container of beer turned into a violent takedown by a California police department, sending a man to the hospital and to court on several charges, including felony resisting arrest. However, those charges have since been dropped, and the spotlight is turned to the actions of those Marin County police officers. The man's attorney and experts in the field tell ABC7 sister station KGO in San Francisco this should not have happened. They say those officers used excessive force and that at least one of them lied in an official report about the incident. Lieutenant Scott Eberly told the I-Team, We are conducting an immediate and thorough internal investigation. These actions do not represent the San Rafael Police Department, and if any of these allegations do become sustained, action will be dealt with swiftly. He says both Officer Neal and Officer Mazariegos remain on active duty. They say they're going to deal with it swiftly, but they're on active duty. They can sit out there and do the same thing to somebody else. One comment says, here's the funniest part. These actions do not represent the San Rafael Police Department. That's gold. They ought to take that on the road. Apparently it does. It says, they use resisting arrest any way they please. It says, a cop lied in his report. Did the sun rise this morning? Another one says, and people want to use back the blue. Okay, dude, complete waste of tax dollars from a cop with a short temper. This man is a danger to our community. Another comment, it says, whatever happened to de-escalate? Another one says, now everyone knows who she is and who he is. It said, another one, you can tell the paramedic didn't believe any of it. I didn't play that part of the clip. The holiest of holies in action because we know their uniform makes them better than normies. They are protecting the shit out of this guy. The cops need to be charged and fired. Hella unreasonable response from these two cops. That big dude got picked on as a kid or has a tiny pee-pee. Someone else says, this has happened to me before. So the story is the guys were out having drinks or whatever. And so the cops pull up. So it's like, it's against the law to drink in public like that for whatever reason. So wherever they drink normally, the neighbors complain that they get loud. So they decide to do it over there. And here comes the police. So obviously they're drunk, obviously. And so the cops feel like this is an opportunity to beat up some people. Like, what else y'all got to do, man? Y'all have some criminals out there that y'all can freaking arrest? Y'all don't have any crimes that y'all can prevent? Who y'all saving? Who's the victim in this? You know what I mean? This guy's over there drinking and y'all pull up. Who's the victim? Where's the crime? The one about freaking Haiti is still going crazy. Let me see. Obama. Let's play this.
Thanks for letting us invite a few friends to the White House. We will try not to tear up the place. When people ask me what I miss most about the White House years, it is not Air Force One that I talk about, although I miss Air Force One. Now some of you who, let's face it, you were kids back then, are now in charge and running the show, which is a little shocking. I'm thrilled to see that you've started families of your own. I am a little disappointed that I haven't heard of anyone naming a kid Barack yet, or Michelle, but there is still time. I want to thank Sharon Sprung for capturing everything I love about Michelle. Her grace, her intelligence, and the fact that she's fine. You'll note that he refused to hide any of my gray hairs, refused my request to make my ears smaller.
Doesn't it seem like an SNL skit? It's real life though. And then that's what be killing me. I swear, I feel like we living through skits like crazy. So, but the thing is, I think that what I think about when I see this clip is like how taken I was by the Barack thing, and then how much of a show it is. I can see so clearly now. So, I mean, he's entertaining, he's funny, I ain't gonna lie, but it's like a reality TV show. It's, you know, it's entertainment, you know? So, but meanwhile, the American people still suffering, you know, or suffering worse, you know? What happened to the hope and change, you know? It was all a song and dance. It was all a damn pony show. You know, it was an SNL skit, and it was funny, and it was entertaining, you know, and easy on the eyes. But what does that get us in the long run? Look at us now. Anyways, let's play this.
Here because the stitch I made was too long, but it's just showing a pile of bison skulls. So that photo of bison skulls and other photos like it from that time period are really jarring because you can really see the scale of devastation wrought by American activity, right? But there's a part of that story that always seems to either be left out or kind of thrown to the side that I think really needs to be acknowledged. So this might be taught differently in different areas of the country, but I know for a lot of us, myself included, when we were learning about bison and America's expansion westward in middle school and high school, it was really framed as greedy hunters who wanted pelts and other parts of the bison, over hunting them as a result of their greed, right? And that's not wrong necessarily, but it leaves out a really critical piece of the puzzle. See, the U.S. as it expanded westward didn't just kind of stumble upon free land. It actively displaced and massacred indigenous populations every step of the way. And over time, a strategy that the U.S. government began consistently deploying was the systematic elimination of indigenous food sources in the areas in which they were presently occupying or moving into. And the strategy here was twofold. On one end, it starved out indigenous populations and made them reliant on U.S. forts for food and supplies, which basically forced cooperation. They would then use those groups as functional hostages when non-reliant indigenous groups began to resist U.S. colonization. In essence, the elimination of bison and other wildlife as the U.S. expanded west wasn't just a couple of greedy hunters being dickheads. It was systematic and genocidal U.S. policy. And honestly, it's really worth pondering why, when we're taught this in middle school and high school, that many of us aren't taught it as a systemic critique of the United States or its policies and history, but rather as the fault of a handful of individuals. Something to think on. Anyway, as always, have a great day.
Yeah, so just a few bad apples, right? Where y'all hear that before? You know, the elimination, almost elimination of the bison was just the result of a few bad apples. It wasn't systematic at all. It's not systemic. It's just a few bad apples. Does that not sound familiar to y'all? I wish people understood this story better. And, you know, whenever I bring this kind of stuff up, I'm the bad guy, you know? People get really upset. This is just really reality, you know? How do we know how we got where we are now without knowing about, you know, what happened before, you know? We can't go in a good direction. We can't fix this. We can't improve in any way if we can't even, you know, take in the facts of what happened. We got to start there. We can't just skip that part. That's why nobody understands what's going on. That's why when they hear something talking about it's just a few bad apples, they believe it. They're not being told the whole story. Oh, yeah, this is interesting, too. Like dystopia world that we live in, because they're on the TV shows, they're offering, like, you know, to pay your utility bills and shit. Europe is going through it. They're going to be freezing this winter. Russia cut off the Nord Stream pipeline. I think it was going into Germany. Cut it off. They're going to be freezing over there, bro. They're going through it big time. But what's so killer about this is as a result of the, you know, the sanctions that they put on. They did it to themselves. It's self-inflicted. But then, like I be saying all the time, I'm like, oh, they be acting like they didn't know this was going to happen. But as a result, the people, the regular folks are the ones that suffer, like in the UK, all through Europe. The regular folks are the ones that suffering. But you think about the people who made these policies and made these decisions, and, you know, they didn't think that this was going to happen, or they just wasn't worried about it because they know they can get their fucking gas and electricity.
Welcome back to Who Wants to Be a Billionaire, the show where if you get through the next round, you might get through the next winter. Now, moments ago, Ethel nearly won heating for her care home. Oh, don't cry, sis. Up next is John. Let's all hope he's not got cold feet.
Actually, they are freezing.
Question number 1 now. According to Edwina Curry, how can you stop your family from freezing to death?
Tax the gas company, still making billions in profit.
All right, let's have a look.
If you put some of this behind your radiators, it makes the whole room nice and warm.
Ah, John. Feels like radiators aren't the only thing getting boiled this evening. Question 2, according to former PM and professional pumper Boris, buying a brand new kettle could save your family how much?
Like £100 a month or...
Okay, let's find out.
You'll save £10 a year every year on your electricity.
Ah, John, at this rate, the only cuppa you're going to be drinking is poverty.
Damn.
Well, like Liz Truss's top lip, John's chances of victory are disappearing. However, there is one more question. John, what is the actual point of living anymore?
I'm going to phone a friend. Well, my nan, because she's always in. So.
Unlike the food in your fridge. Okay, John's nan, everyone. Oh, that's a shame. How about that for a cold caller? Huh?
Oh, God, the new series of Black Mirror is so depressing. Let's just watch telly.
Okay, here we go. We'll pay your energy bills. Got £1,000 as well. So this is energy bills, I think, for 4 months.
Welcome back to Who.
Like, it's a skit, like, but it's real. Like, it's funny because it's true. It's like, you don't starve to death. He's like, I really like the food in your fridge. It's like, oh yeah, check this out.
It said this is the Bronx. No, nigga, this is jail. The fuck? All inmates to the yard. Nigga said this is the Bronx. No, nigga, this is jail. The fuck? All inmates to the yard.
Telling you, man.
It said this is the Bronx.
I be talking about it all the time, open air prisons, and I talk about these apartments, but that's pretty damn depressing. Let me read the comment. It says, no, nigga, this is jail. Facts, imagine that's all you see your whole life. It says DNA response to environment, concrete jungle, prison pipeline is real. Another comment says, looks like building on 181st Street and Ryer Avenue. Somebody giving away the location. Another one, it says, I grew up in the Bronx in the 80s and wouldn't change it for the world. I happily tell people where I'm from when asked. High Bridge. Another comment, it says, it's a tough environment, but the people are beautiful. It says, whole courtyard and all. Literally, it's jails all around us, including the schools. Another one, it says, intentional programming. Another one, it says, I really do feel for people who have to grow up in this environment. It's literally built and striving off of us being poor and having less than. I think they meant to say thriving. It says, just that building complex with the letters to tell which side the mates come from. But the Bronx is definitely not jail. He's straight capping. And the Bronx is of the borough that has projects, private homes, and tenement buildings all on the same block. Another comment, facts, but growing up in it, sometimes it's the most beautifulest thing depending on your knowledge yourself. I'm glad I moved to the South at an early age and understood what's going on and what's going to be happening in the world. Another one says, facts, concrete jungle produced diamond souls. Definitely look like a wreck yard. The Bronx has been treated the worst of all 5 boroughs. They used to burn the buildings down for insurance money. Facts, coming from where I'm from. My grandpop's from the Bronx. Man telling no lies. What do y'all think? Open air prisons. These damn apartments. These damn tenement buildings. How segregated we are. They act like we're not, but we're freaking more segregated than we was before. Just look at your neighborhood. Who lives in your neighborhood? You might work with a diverse group, but your neighborhood is completely segregated. And also, you're segregated at work by departments or by, like, you know, class structure, by, like, you know, job title.
held out and they've done better than anybody could have predicted. And Zelensky has been a true wartime leader. I'm so impressed with him.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, the United States should stand with them along with all of our other friends around the world. They're getting the weapons they need to defend themselves, and they're now on offense. And I think we have to keep supporting them, helping them. They were attacked by an unprovoked act of war, and they've held out and they've done better than anybody could have predicted. And Zelensky has been a true wartime leader. I'm so impressed with him.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, the United States should stand with them along with all of our other friends around the world.
Yeah, but the United States don't stand with other friends around the world. What friends do United States have around the world? Like, you know, and when I hear Hillary Clinton talking, I think about politics, and I think about, you know, people like, okay, well, depending on who's the president, things will be different. I don't think so. I really don't. For the most part. I mean, you know, maybe we could have someone in there that possibly could rock the boat, but for the most part, no, I don't think so. These policies, these procedures, what they've been trying to do for years and years. So there's two wings of the same bird. They're on the same accord, trying to accomplish the same things. So these things have been set up years and years and years and years ago. You think that some random dude is kind of come into office and derail their plans that they put down 100 years ago? No. That's a good way to get popped. Suicided. You're not even going to make it up there because they're going to know. They know who they, because like, that's how they do it. It's like that. Such and such, he's our guy. Don't worry about it. He's our guy.
There's racial disparities.
It's got too much music in there. I didn't even listen to that clip anyway, so I don't even know what she was going to say. Haiti is a mess. Residents in Route de Frères burned its tires and blocked the roads to protest against the soaring consumer prices, the growing scarcity of gasoline and diesel, and inflation. The sudden road blockade on September 7th had paralyzed all activities in the area. More than a week, residents in Port-au-Prince, Jacmel, Les Cayes, Petit Goave, and other cities have been protesting against the same issues and demanding the resignation of Haiti's Prime Minister, Ariel Henry. Yeah, it's funny how like Haiti or somewhere else comes up in the news, like Haiti's president got assassinated, and then it's like a news cycle for a week or two, and then you just move on with your news cycle. But hey, guess what? Haiti's still going through it. It's still going through it. Yeah. The news cycle may be over, but the drama that Haitians are going through hasn't ended. Comments, it says, we still doing things like we're stuck in the 1800s. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but what do you expect them to do? Another one, it says, if gas prices are high, why are we using gas to set tires on fire? It says, what is going on in Haiti? You don't know anything? The gangs have been running Haiti ever since the freaking assassination of the president. It has been like a war zone. You know, there has been the sanctions on Haiti for years and years and years. There has been the exploitation of all the aid that was supposed to go to Haiti during the earthquake and other disasters that never made it there. There has been, you know, whenever there is aid that comes over there, it's exploited in a way that given to the men, and people get have to give sexual favors and stuff like that to get the stuff. Like, I mean, what else? They don't have a functioning government, really. What else? It's a mess. Most of the people live in poverty. They do have an oligarchy there that wants to keep things a mess. And then you have all of these worldwide companies who are making money from the resources in Haiti, and the people there don't get nothing. What else you want to know? Look it up. Just type in Haiti. A bunch of shit gonna pop up. Let me see. Do I have another one in here? I just like this. A little bit. I can't play that. I'll get in trouble. There was that post. Hold on. Let me see. Jeff Bezos added over $35 billion to his wealth during the pandemic. But the media is trying to convince us that some guy who got a $1 raise at Wendy's is causing skyrocketing inflation. San Francisco just decriminalized shrooms. Not legalized, decriminalized. Yeah, that story is crazy. I don't even know if I want to play that. This one, it says 9 to 5 is bullshit. Unpaid lunch breaks are bullshit. Working all day to go home and have 2 hours of free time before bed is bullshit. 5-day work week is bullshit. Working yourself to death is bullshit. Retiring at 65 unlikely is bullshit. Starting your adult life in debt from student loans is bullshit. Giving kids 7 hours of school and then homework to ready them for a never-ending grind is bullshit. It is so frustrating that we have one chance at life on this earth, and humanity chose taxes and credit scores and pollution instead of floating in the ocean and eating fruit and hanging out. Yep. Check this one out. It says, women are debating on a working man with $40K in the bank or a man with $250K of street money. There's a post underneath. A chick says, she says, working man with 401K and $40K in the bank or a street with $250K of street money. She says, me personally, them working men be boring. 9 to 10, they want to go 50 to 50 on bills, etc. And what the fuck is 40K? LOL. Street nigga, me please. You only live once, and I'm trying to live. Plus, I'm going to help my man invest and flip that 250K. Yep. That's crazy talk. But I swear to God, I think that's what happened in some previous relationships that I was in. It is what it is. And then they come back. So they realize, oh, that's fun is not fun no more. I want some dependability. Can't depend on that street dude. That money is fast and goes fast. Dude ends up in jail, dead. You're not gonna have no steady life like that. What's up, Pat?
What's the deal? What's the deal?
How you feeling, man?
Feeling pretty good, man. How about yourself?
I can't complain.
Yeah.
You sound awake.
Yeah, I'm up. Time to slip by on me. I was working on some stuff on my, on my laptop, and didn't even realize like what time it was. But
yeah, that happens to me all the time. I have to tell myself I close the laptop because I get distracted too. If the laptop is just open and sitting to the side, it's distracting. I gotta close it. Close it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I had to do because I was just like, all right, you know what? If I don't lay my ass down soon, I ain't gonna be able to get up and work tomorrow. So, but then I listened to certain tones and I was like, oh shit, Chaka's on. I said, all right, let me go in for a little bit,
All right.
So,
well, I'm gonna get into the topic then while you're here because I got some meat I want to talk about. Let me play this little quick clip right here.
You ain't want me to respond to them funky biatches?
Yeah, go ahead.
The 250K.
Yeah. Go ahead.
They get exactly what they asked for, And you know, that's, you know, it's good because I mean, you know, it might look all glorious up front and things like that. I actually had somebody who was like, because you know, in my previous life, I was a D boy. You know what I'm saying? Well, you know, I sold lots of pot, but you know what I'm saying, I did pretty good at it. But you know, when I was with this other chick, you know, she kind of knew about my background. She's like, I should go back to doing that. And I'm like, you know, so I mean, I guess that was at the beginning of me knowing that me and, you know, we weren't going to last long, because I'm like trying to actually, you know, be an upstanding, you know, citizen and do the right way. If she, you know, she was smart, she would have just stuck around, because if you know how to make it doing bad stuff, you could do even better doing good stuff. But you know,
not have to worry about the cops and, you know, getting robbed and stuff.
Because I mean, I doubt I would have become. I mean, shit. I guess nowadays, shit, you can become a millionaire, multi-millionaire, selling pot now. You know what I'm saying? With it being legalized, but it's just, I don't know. The mindset of those type of females just kills me. But they get exactly what they ask for, because most cases they had that lifestyle for a year, 2 years. If they're good, 5 years or so, and then the rest of it, they're struggling because they man, the one that was making all the money, is gone. He locked up because he trying to make her ball out.
And then once you get used to this lifestyle, it's gonna be really hard for you to go back to being a regular person. You know, that's gonna be super painful. You're gonna want to kill yourself.
They probably felt like that, you know. But you know, she had a college degree and she was able to kind of, and that's the thing, like a lot of girls like that, like for whatever reason, they do the right thing for themselves, but they, you know, the guy, because I guess they feel like we're, you know, disposable, you know, yeah, I'm just gonna go with this D boy because I can do all I want to do now. And then
what pisses me off is that it's a good guy that she passed up to do that. To go,
but that's good for him.
Yeah, that's true. I guess so. You can look at it that way. He dodged a bullet, right? If she's that tight, that's what she into. Then at some point she was gonna jump ship.
There ain't no reason for you to be getting all sad about a dirty biatch like her. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of mindset they have. Then, you know, you winning, because, you know, she could have tried to play you for whatever she could get out you and be gone. You know what I'm saying?
Let me play this. This is a weird story right here. Check this out.
The child removed from the household of the parent she tried to sleep with. Her name is Robin Nasita. Ms. Nasita is listed as a defendant in a lawsuit alleging she tried to punish moms who rejected her advances by having their children taken away from them. Nasita now faces felony charges for retaliation against an elected official, as well as a misdemeanor charge of making a false report of child abuse as a mandatory reporter. The alleged offenses happened when that woman worked in the County Department of Human Services. According to a criminal complaint, Nasita called the DHS anonymously to report that a local city councilwoman, Danielle Jurinsky, sexually abused her own son in the presence of staff. Okay, that never happened. That was completely untrue. The complaint, however, alleges that Nasita used a personal phone to make the call, and that the authorities investigated the case, found the allegations to be completely untrue, non-factual. Nasita made the call after the councilwoman, Jurinsky, appeared on a local radio show and called for the firing of the Aurora police chief, who was Nasita's girlfriend at the time. Nasita's girlfriend was the police chief that the councilwoman said, this person needs to be fired for misconduct. Now, things have gotten worse for this once trusted individual in the community. After Jurinsky filed a civil lawsuit against Nasita and the County Department of Human Services because of this ridiculous allegation, several other women came forward. These other women, what did they allege? They're saying that Miss Nasita, when a county child protective caseworker would lure them in, make sexual advances towards them, And when the advances were rejected, Nacita would try to take their children away, utilizing her official position as a child protective worker. The attorney for the councilwoman Jurinski has filed documents asking for a class action lawsuit for, and I quote, well over 40 persons whose families were affected by Nacita's alleged actions.
What a disgusting abuse of power. This was a trusted individual in this community, and they're using their title in order for their own personal gain. Like, this is gross. And we both know, everyone watching knows, there are far more than 40 individuals that are involved in this civil action lawsuit. So I hope justice prevails and something like this can be put down really quick.
This is a former Colorado child protection caseworker who has now been charged. Why? Because according to multiple individuals, she would make sexual advances. And when those sexual advances were rejected, she would then engage in a process to get the child removed from the household of the parent she tried to sleep with.
What you think about that?
That's wild, boy. I mean, sheesh. And it's a female doing that? Isn't that a female?
Yeah.
That's some, bro. Damn. And this is a real story.
Real story.
Man, what this world has come to, man, and some of the depravities that come about when you start to, you know, when you know, and I was saying this not long ago, it's like when you start accepting too much, you know, like, you know, yeah, you want people to live and be free and this, that, and the other, but I think when you relax things for people too much, that's when they overdo things. That's like what they said about the white man, you know, in the beginning, like, because they had so much freedom, like they got away with everything. So that's not just for one group of people. That's for anybody. You know,
Yeah.
so I mean, I think to some extent, like, man, like, I don't know, bro. That's crazy. But I mean, I'm glad, you know, she got caught, and they, you know, I guess they're gonna do something about it.
Yeah, man. How many people? And that sucks so bad because when you think about them child protective cases and stuff like that, you know, that the parent is like, bro, ain't none of this shit true. Like, this bitch is making this shit up. Meanwhile, everybody else is like, why would she just make some shit up?
Exactly. Because I mean, and, you know, somebody that's holding a position like that, you know, you give them a certain level of respect just because they have this position. But then, you know, but I mean, just like anybody else, I mean, any human being can be, you know, a fault. But bro, that's some wild thinking. Like, it's like, oh, so if I do this, like maybe I can get that ass if I can, you know what I'm saying?
So
Like,
fucked
it's,
up.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
She
you
can't
know,
just get ass on her own without having to fucking blackmail people.
that's the thing. That's what I'm, like, bro. Most of us ain't cute, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like,
That
and
sucks. That's terrible. It's like, she like, shit, I ain't pretty enough. Shit, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna use my position to get me some ass. Shit, I ain't gotta be pretty. Shit, I'm a social worker. Shit.
bro, if I look, I ain't gonna lie, bro. If I couldn't get away with my, you know, my, because you know, I'm kind of, you know, on the, I got some good jokey jokes, and you know, I got a good personality. If I left it up to my looks, bro, like I'd say, bro, I've had a dry pecker all my life, you know. But man,
Yeah, man. How you feeling?
I'm shit, man. I'm feeling real good now, man. Some of these things I've been waiting to pop off is popping.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, man.
Did you see any? I sent a clip from Demolition Man. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
Tell me what you think about that, because I don't know why that popped up on my line. I can't share it. I don't know why that popped up on my time. No, I looked it up. Because it popped in my mind. So, but then it's like the, that was set in 2030. That's like 10 years from now, And the other thing that struck me is like the way the people were, how they were so like they was listening to the algorithm, and like the computer told the dude, now tell him firmly, or now ask him to do it again sternly.
and this time add or else.
Or else.
Yeah. And boy, I gotta say, bro, like I think it's very much off, in the actuality, because by the time 2030 comes, it's like I mean, they're not gonna be naive at all, like to think of, this guy who just so happens to, I don't know how long it would take for that to happen, but because he just came out of prison, right?
Yeah, he got broken from prison because he was frozen for, I don't know, 40 years. I think they said.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think our society is a lot like that. We are a lot like that. It's not exactly to that extent, but the movie is an exaggeration. But I think it is, man. The way people push the button to cross the street.
So who's gonna be the cops? Because I mean, these cops is too far from being that naive, like to where he got shot.
Yeah. So in this time in the movie, they didn't have no guns. Like guns were outlawed, so no one had guns at all. They were only in museums and shit. That's why he had to go break into a museum to get a gun.
Wow. Okay.
And if they have to imagine it, see, like they have to go by the algorithm. So, like right now, we got the whole thing with defund the police or whatever. So what if they came out with an algorithm? They said, okay, look, we're not going to defund the police, but what we're going to do is we're going to give them an algorithm, and it's going to tell them what to do in circumstances. That don't sound too far-fetched to me.
It sounds very far-fetched because they're like, before they allowed the public to have control or to be that relaxed with people, like they will beat your ass. Like that's way far from what like the people who's in power now and that's looking to try to take complete power. Shit, your ass gonna get beat. It ain't gonna be no okay. Try do the, what I'm saying? That's where it's off at. Like,
but you wouldn't have to if everybody was so passive. Did you see the way people was acting? Like they didn't know how to deal with circumstances.
That's what I'm talking about. It's not gonna be that, because I mean, all right, if nobody has guns and the cops come, they're not gonna like this. Okay, yeah, you have rights and this, that, and the other. But shit, bro, they're not gonna change that much in freaking 8 years. Like,
yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we already kind of in that, and I was tripping about how it's only 10 years away. That the setting, also to imagine the future being like that, so different from what it is. Like, so like high tech and futuristic, and it's only 10 years from now. That's another show how are we progressing? It's like a lot. I'm trying to say a lot all at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think in some ways we are advancing, because I mean, the way that is very I don't know what's feudal, or like there's the way the cops are today is like very primitive. You know what I'm saying? Is the technology should be higher. The way to interact with people should be a lot more I don't know what's the best, like there should be better ways to deal with people, but the best way that they have is to be animalistic and beat them up kill them, and that's the only way to really get control, even though there's no guns. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, obviously, like, shoot, this dude, like this, we talking about Wesley. You know, this is Wesley Snipes' real life. So I mean, but the movie, I mean, he still got the skills to kick some ass. This is our, you know, a citizen. This, I guess, this is the only one that knows martial arts.
Right, because he was frozen. So the society had changed so much in 40 years. So by the time he came out, you know, yeah.
Nobody knew martial arts.
Right.
Wow. This is a lot to think of. Like like me just trying to put it all in place.
Yeah, it's hypothetical. It's just a movie. But so what did the clips? What did you think about when you saw the clip?
When I watch it, I don't really know. I mean, I guess just the idea that, you know, okay, all right, you know, because I know this is supposed to be the future, but I don't know what I can't really remember what mindset I was in, or what I was really thinking when I saw it, because I mean, I get entertained by it because it was a great movie.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
And it was funny, so that's why I sent it, because it was just entertaining. I was entertained for whatever it was, 4 minutes or whatever, how long the clip was. Yeah. Definitely brought me back to, like, you know, I don't know, kind of nostalgia. What about, before I move on, because I want to get into the witches, but before I do that, was it any other the videos that I sent you, anything that stuck out, or maybe something that you sent to me? It's fucking hot in here.
You know, because I should, like, if I was sitting still, I would probably write some notes. But what was it? It was something that was, I think, one of those Democracy Now! Videos. I forget the topic, but I remember it was something. Were you planning to play any of those, or have you already gone through?
No, I haven't played any of them. I might play one. I don't want to bore everybody, and I want to get to the witches. But let me see. It was only one Democracy Now! I sent you. I think it was about Ukraine. What was it about?
Oh, him and the bell.
This episode is brought.
Was that you that sent me that? No. That was probably one of those things that I might have sent you. Like, because, you know, they're trying to get onto the New York Stock Exchange, or they are about to get on the New York Stock Exchange, and he's got the bell, and he was like ringing the bell for people to, you know, be able to get, I guess, have more of a direct approach to investments and stuff like that in Ukraine. But
yeah, freaking it was something with that shit. The way the media has been covering Ukraine, I know that I kind of wanted to talk about that. I don't remember. I don't see a Democracy Now! One in here. I just scrolled all the ones I sent. Unless it was before. I don't see it.
Did you see the thing I sent you about Putin making deals with North Korea for weapons?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Buying and it's tech stuff too. They have some kind of minerals or whatever the hell. So, but see, the sanctions are causing them. So what it's causing is another alignment. It's causing a polar type of alignment that's going to happen. And it's like they're breaking up the global economy and making it into like a polar economy where it's like two main blocks of countries around the world that kind of like work with each other instead of all the countries working together.
Well, there's a group of people who are trying to go the globalist route, and there's others that's just like, look, we're doing fine. We have our own countries. We have our own sovereignty. Your group, you know what I'm saying? Like, you and your people, y'all go do y'all thing. We'll go do our thing. And then, like, if there's any trade, you got something I want, I'll pay for it. You got something I want, you pay for it. You know, like, why, you know, like the whole idea of doing the globalist thing just isn't, it's not, we're just like trying to switch over to everything, you know, electric. It's just not, like, it's not time for that. Like, the world is not in that type of space for us to try to do any of that, what they're trying to do right now. It's just like, okay, oh well, we're at this point in our life and this is what we want to see, and just warp speed everything, and it doesn't matter what happens to people in the meanwhile. It's just, this is what we want, you know what I'm saying? And it's like talking about a couple thousand people compared to billions, you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all are a minority, and I think there's some people that's about to show them how much of a minority they are, but, you know, don't really know what kind of effect that's going to have on just the regular everyday people, because, you know, we ain't the ones making plans for all of that, but we just because we are in the society in which they have power over, we end up having to deal with a lot of the things that, you know, the repercussions of it.
Yeah. I'm scrolling, trying to decide on which direction I want to take this in. Well, the title of the show today. Go ahead. What you gonna say?
The lady behind you look like somebody I know.
Say word.
Yeah, I ain't gonna say too much because me and her was beefing a while back on Facebook, and, you know, I ain't gonna say no names, but yeah.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because I picked that background because the title is New Age Witches.
Okay.
I have Wikipedia up on the screen, and I typed in witch. It says the word witch derives from the Old English nouns Wicca, male witch, warlock, and Wiki, female witch. The word's further origin in Proto-Germanic and Proto-Indo-European are unclear. I'm going to just read this little history part. It says, throughout history, there's not been a consistent definition of the term witch, and other 15th century writers used the Latin term maleficis to mean witch, a person who performed a maleficium, harmful acts of sorcery against others. The witch hunts of medieval Europe differed from pre-Christian practices in condemning the witches as a moral corruption, rather than focusing on whether the act of sorcery was harmful, expanding the customary understanding of the maleficium concept. The introduction of the idea of demonic forces empowering the acts of maleficium gave the term witch new connotations of idolatry and apostasy that were adopted by Malleus Maleficarum, but these remain disputed despite papal injunctions to take action against witches. Comments? What you think? Freaking the first part. So it really doesn't go back that far, apparently, because it's saying Proto-Germanic and Proto-Indo-European. Like, what the hell does that mean? Old English. All of that says to me that doesn't go back very far.
Indo-European, Germanic. It's like it says Proto-Germanic and Proto-Indo-European. Who does that describe? Who is an Indo-European? Who would be considered an Indo-European?
It'd probably be a brown person because, like I say all the time, I mean, the further you go back, it's brown people, but
German,
still,
yeah.
I would say that that doesn't go back very far. If they're saying it like that, that's recent, fairly recent.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't really like. I don't know, the definition is just kind of, I guess, kind of threw me off because I mean I'm trying to soak it in for whatever it is that's coming, but like I don't really have anything much to say. I mean, it is what it is.
So I got this magazine right here. The Story of Witches.
Okay.
It says Ancient Origins, a Modern Movement. And this is the one that made me go to this topic, and I ended up reading out of that other magazine. But when I flipped through this one, it had this stuff in it that had me super interested. I kind of want to stall a bit before I go right into it. There's and a lot of people want to mix voodoo up with this, and it's not that.
No.
So I have a video on that. I want to bore y'all, but this is really good. I'm not gonna play a lot of it because I want to get into this magazine.
Well, let me ask this: do you think that the witches that they're speaking of, I mean, like, are they the type that would like? Because I assume one way, but maybe it could be different. But do you think that even the bad witches had a standard of like who they,
principles? If there were actually what the real word, because that's where a lot of confusion comes in. That's why I want to talk about this, is because the ones that they are calling witches aren't witches. But if they are what they would consider a witch, then they're going by nature, the laws of nature. You know what I'm saying? So then, yes, they're going to follow these certain principles related to the universal laws, whether they're a bad witch or a good witch. Because there's no real such thing, because it has to do with how you use it, right? That's what makes you who you are, or whatever, right? If you,
or even why, like the intent,
and anyways, everybody knows when you're using this kind of stuff, if you use it for negative things, then you're gonna have unintended negative repercussions on yourself. It's just a part of the game. Now, if you have the ones out there that's okay with it, they're like, shit, I'll take that, because that's their anger, their hate, their rage is enough for them to take the pain, because that's what they say about anger anyways, right? It says you're hurting yourself. How does it work? I'm not saying it right. Because it's true. When you rage, even if you have this control of these elements or whatever, if you use it in a rage, then it's going to have a negative impact on yourself. Besides the negative stuff that you do to whatever else or whoever else or whatever else, it's going to also come back on you.
It's just like us, even just in a basic human form. If you are angry with somebody and you go yelling at them, you are hurting yourself more, because you're probably giving yourself high blood pressure, and you probably, like harming yourself in ways that, you can't really repair, because of, the deed is done. But, the karma that can, come on you, instead of just allowing them to just go, whatever it is that they've done, they have to deal with it with, like you try to get payback on something that, you really should have just let.
Because it's hard to say it, but yeah, God can take care of them way better than you can. I mean, it's hard. Our ego is what makes us feel like, I need to get them. But, the universe is going to get them. God's gonna get him. He's gonna do a way better job than you. Just give it to him. That's one of those things that I agree with, that they say, the Christians say, give it to God. You know, that's one of the ones you want to give away.
Yeah.
I want to read some comments underneath the video that I'm about to play to give y'all an idea of this. One of the first comments says, "This is one of the best descriptions of Afro-Caribbean religions I've ever seen. The level of respect, understanding, research, and the conscious and respectful contextualization of our Afro-Caribbean faiths is marvelous. Thank you so much for doing this. I look forward to have a video on Santeria and other Yoruba-based Afro-Caribbean religions." Another comment, it says, "I'm Haitian, and although I don't practice voodoo, I have profound respect for it. From a historical and cultural perspective, it deserves to be protected and respected."
How
Go ahead.
old is Europe? How old is the European tribes?
Those go really far back. Yeah, they go really far back.
Are they ancient?
Well, I mean, you know, that's who's to say what's ancient, and you know, things always change over time. So it's like, when did it start? You know, that's always an argument too.
I don't know. I did somewhat of a study on it, but I think it might have, like, the Yoruba tribes just came about in the 1800s. You know, like since colonization. And it was like and maybe that's just like maybe, it could be just like Cherokee and Choctaw, where like these people existed, but under a different name.
Well, yeah, that happens a lot. Because the colonizers give them the names, and then after a while, the people just start referring to themselves as that. But you go to them and ask them what they call themselves, they would say something different. But I don't know if that's the case with Yoruba, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that that name just came. That's what I'm talking about. Yoruba itself, the name, not necessarily the people and the traditions that may have come through them, but the name itself is something that came about in the 1800s. So, but like I said, I just had to, because I know that was something that came in my mind, is that it's not really that old, but as I thought about it, I mean, that was a group of people that a lot of the traditions actually could have been there. It's just that they got a new name. They started calling them something else when, kind of like what happened to us as indigenous people here. Like we were not Cherokee, we were not Choctaw, we were, other names. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Let me read some more comments. It says, "As a Haitian that grew up Baptist, every Christian would say that voodoo is evil and of the devil," shaking my head. "As a kid and now an adult, I knew it couldn't be true. Thank you for the video." Another comment, it says, "As someone that's Yoruba and speaks Fon, a longtime subscriber and viewer, I'm so happy you made this video. You've definitely made my year. By the way, Iwa is said as Uwa in Yoruba, as short for Oluwa, which is God, but Eledamere is the main God equivalent to Bandu. Please make the next one about Yoruba religion. Thank you so much." So let me play some of this. It's really, really... The part I'm gonna skip through it. How does he start off? Because it gets good when he talks to the Haitian lady. And I remember a timestamp about 8 minutes that I know I wanted to share. The basic, yeah, that's it right here. I want to share that. But let me see. History, misconceptions, and terminology. Let's see.
Or Dr. Facilier, the villain in Disney's The Princess and the Frog, who wields... This episode of Religion for Breakfast is brought to you by Wondrium. The word voodoo conjures all sorts of creepy and exotic imagery in pop culture. Images of malevolent magic like voodoo dolls, or Dr. Facilier, the villain in Disney's The Princess and the Frog, who wields voodoo magic. Voodoo is also often associated with brutality and even human sacrifice. In 2014, Universal Studios Orlando staged a Halloween horror sideshow called Bayou of Blood, where a voodoo priestess slaughters a helpless man. These are inaccurate stereotypes of African diaspora religions, sometimes called African-derived religions. These are religions mostly centered in the Americas, including the Caribbean, that originate in part from communities of enslaved Africans who were abducted from their homelands and forced to work in European colonies during the transatlantic slave trade. Some examples of African diaspora religions include Brazilian candomblé, Cuban lucumi, also known as Santeria, and Haitian Vodou, which is the subject of this video. To help with this episode, I've teamed up with an expert, Dr. Kira Malika Daniels, a scholar of African diaspora religion and a professor at Boston College. I'll cut to my interview with her throughout this video, but first let's get our terminology straight. The idea of voodoo, spelled with 2 O's, as it's manufactured in pop culture and horror films, is not rooted in reality. The Haitian religion known as Vodou is not primarily based on magic or witchcraft. The vast majority of Vodou practitioners, called Vodouisans, have never seen a voodoo doll, let alone used one. As we'll see later in this video, Haitian Vodou primarily involves serving spirits called Loa, and a lot of Haitian Vodou practice is blended with Roman Catholicism. I also want to distinguish Haitian Vodou from the tradition of New Orleans voodoo, which we can describe in several ways. First, voodoo in New Orleans sometimes manifests as a cultural theme, or what we could call tourist voodoo, something that you can see in local gift shops, on t-shirts, or in the branding of particularly hoppy beers. But New Orleans voodoo can also refer to local beliefs and practices of the populations that trace their origins back to the Atlantic slave trade, when enslaved Africans were brought to Louisiana in the 17th and 18th centuries, which at the time was a French colony. Throughout this video, I'll be using the term Vodou to refer specifically to Haitian Vodou. This word derives from the designation for spirit in the Fon language group of West Africa, which is spoken today in the country of Benin and its surroundings. Vodun, with an N, refers to beliefs and practices in West Africa today, which is a topic we'll save for a future video. Keep in mind, though, that religions are internally diverse, and while I'll be generalizing throughout this video, there is diversity within Haitian Vodou. Beliefs and practices vary from family to family and community to community. So with all of that in mind, let's get into it.
All right, comments. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Freaking oh shit, I did something. Freaking all the misconceptions of voodoo, like the voodoo doll, like, and they're like, that's not even a part of voodoo. And the part where he was talking about New Orleans, you're talking about Louisiana and like tourist voodoo, like that's also not voodoo. What you think?
No, I think a lot of I think there's a lot of things that was sold to us, especially in movies, that made us believe that certain things about it was just so bad that we wouldn't, to try to make us not want to be a part of it. So like a lot of it is like just TV, made up stories of what it is, so that they can try to get, those who don't understand it or don't know about it, they'll look down on it as soon as they hear about it. But yeah, like now there are some places you can go in New Orleans that, I mean, is it real voodoo? Okay, now see, that's something that'll be questionable for me. I don't know. I've never gone and played with any of those people down there, which I'm sure there's some people that go down there and shoot. You never know what might happen in some of those places, but
yeah, like
I think it could be, some of it is real, but then I mean, like I said, even some of the stuff that's that they got going on in New Orleans is not really real. It's like they have it because okay, it's something they can make money from. You know what I'm saying? It's the tourist side of people coming. It's like, oh yeah, I want to go see a voodoo. Like I don't know, some people are just that weird. You know what I'm saying?
And I've seen some weird shit going to Louisiana too, like some shit with the egg. They be fucking with them eggs. Fucking, I seen some crazy shit with some chicken eggs.
What? Some salsa and cheese and. You said you see some crazy stuff with some eggs or with some omelets. What you talking about?
Shit, I don't even want to say because I'd have to talk about that off air. Because it's crazy. So, but let me see if I can find the ancient history of witchcraft. That's not what I want. We talked about that last time. Hold on. Witchcraft as Africa. Hold on. In Japan, witches are called majo. Across Latin America, the Spanish word for female witch is bruja. And in China, a practitioner of sorcery, a shaman, is known as wu. In the Arab world, supernatural beings are jinn. The Quran and Hadith, a collection of traditional Muslim sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, both refer to witchcraft. The Navajo of the American Southwest refer to witches as skinwalkers, those who travel at night and sit among baskets of corpses. But few areas have a prevalent and conflicted relationship with witchcraft as Africa. Dang, that's interesting. He said the Navajo refer to witches as skinwalkers, those who travel at night and sit among baskets of corpses. Sound like vampires to me.
Mm-hmm. But you never know, man. Say, bro, shoot. Some of these people play with these different elements and shoot, mess themselves up for life, and they might not necessarily be vampires, but it's some kind of something that they've.
Yeah, they all fucked up. Let me read some more. It says, according to the World Health Organization, Africa boasts approximately 80 healers, the non-pejorative term for every medical doctor. On the one hand, these witches have such a significant societal role that some Africans visit a traditional healer and a traditional medicine professional for the same ailment. In a 2019 New York Times article detailed one Zulu HIV specialist realization that his patients who were taking antiretroviral drugs were also taking vomit-inducing medicine and enemas to purge evil. When negated the treatment, the doctor decided to befriend the healer and work together. Moreover, before the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, the host nation employed healers or sangomas for good luck. Yet those suspected of practicing witchcraft are also still beaten, burned to death, or both. Man, that's crazy. So it's like, so the people that you go to get healed, they're gonna call them your witch doctor, you know. So they're saying they're calling them a witch. It's your doctor.
Yeah. Well, see, I mean, I think that's more like, you know, the terminology might sound crazy for these days and times, but I mean, as far as a witch doctor, I mean, it's just a doctor, somebody. Because I mean, really, you're learning science. You know what I'm saying? Like, you learn to do certain things with elements that other, like, just average everyday people won't know about. So that's what makes you a witch. You know, you know, can put together some concoctions that, you know, you're pulling, you know, your doctor or whatever you want to call it, to where those things you can heal, or even maybe even make people sick. Like, you know, like it work both ways, but for the most part, I would say look at you know, if we're looking at a genuine witch doctor or whatever, they're doing healing, and that's a part of their gift, is because they know how to mix different minerals and
But there's another side of it. Let me read this. It says, even in modern times, terrifying ritual killings occur in Africa tied to practices of witchcraft. In January 2019, 10 Tanzanian children were found dead with many body parts like teeth, ears, and genitalia missing. Some people in the Eastern African nation and surrounding countries believe that body parts used in rituals can bring good fortune and wealth. As part of a crackdown against the practice, Tanzanian police arrested 65 healers in connection with the killings, and the police inspector general now requires traditional healers to carry a license. It says albinos are particularly vulnerable across Africa because of the perception that their skin mutation holds great magical power. Notions such as the spread from Africa to the Caribbean and the Americas through the slave trade, as did the rituals of Haitian Vodou, pronounced widely spelled Vodou, Santeria, and Brujeria, which all feature good and bad forms of magic. So wait, he said albinos are particularly vulnerable across Africa because of the perception that their skin mutation holds great magical power. What do you think about that?
They don't know much about science. I mean, you know, and I guess you can make anything mystical and, you know, mysterious, or, you know, because of, you know, because I mean, if you think about it, in Africa, there's a lot of misconception about light skin, you know, versus dark skin. And, you know, they're saying like, okay, or like probably in their mind, they think that these people are blessed because they got the light skin, you know, something weird. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just.
Yeah, I think that's a lot. Some of that is as a result of colonization, but it's not all. Let me read some more. It says, across Asia, the belief in the existence of evil spirits is universal, per Japanese folklore. Witches fall into two categories: those who use snakes as familiars and those who use foxes. China I Ching Book of Changes in English is one of the oldest divination collections in the world. Written around 10,000 BC, it is a major text for occultism on the Asian continent, especially for Wu, wanting to protect the future through claromancy, the casting of lots. Some people even consider the ancient Chinese aesthetic art of Feng Shui, accepted and popular in modern American culture, to be a form of witchcraft. In India, women are still hunted down and killed for being alleged witches. Villagers often use this as an excuse to bring action against women in their community during property disputes and land grabs. Widows are especially vulnerable to such accusations. The accusers are emboldened because of legislation banning. So that's what happened a lot of times historically. So like a woman who lost her husband or something, or she lives alone, or maybe she could be gay, and a lot of times because she don't have a dude, you know, they don't know, like something's weird about her. Like, you know, where's the men? You know, those are the ones that get called witches historically.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, some kind of political thing, I would say, does have something to do with them wanting to exploit these women at these different times. And you know, like I was saying last week about, like, them, you know, these people really know, you know, usually know medicine, or like how these different things happen. And, you know, they were trying to build up a modern styled medicine. So I mean, those type of people around would hinder their business. So they got rid of a lot of these witches, or anybody who was a, you know, like strong healers would get in the way. They would find a way to, you know, get them out of the way.
Or if they just inherited a bunch of land and shit, and the dude died, the husband died, and they inherited farms and shit and whatever. Somebody don't want them to have that shit. She's a female. She shouldn't have that. She's a witch. Call her a witch and freaking burn at the stake, and then we can chop up the land.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that as a scenario as well, but I don't want to look past the fact that, I mean, like, there's different things that came about that made a bunch of money for a certain group of people, and it made it easier that those types of people weren't around because, you know, that's what they had. They were trying to build it up. Like, I mean, I think they were already trying to do some medicine, and then because, you know, there was something that was much more natural, and, you know, it was just like, I think both of what we're both saying is true. Like, those effects are definitely happening on both sides. Sound like you ripping that book apart.
I'm flipping through it because I should have looked at it again, and I lost my spot what I wanted to read. Let me read this. It says, the witch is a feminine archetype who has authority over herself. She has power on her own terms. It says, we are the granddaughters of the witches you could not burn. On January 21st, 2017, millions of people in Washington, D.C., as well as in cities and towns across America, joins the Women's March protest. When the crowds were people who proudly identified as witches, a nod to an old idea that has taken on a modern meaning. One sign at the march read, we are the granddaughters of the witches you cannot burn. Other protesters held up banners proclaiming witches against white supremacy and hex the patriarchy. These witch-themed references were the culmination of large cultural shifts built over generations, an effort that is still ongoing. The age-old association connecting women, witchcraft, and evil has instead been replaced, at least for many, by an embrace of witches as a symbol of women's empowerment. The witch is a feminine archetype who has authority over herself, Pam Grossman, host of Witch Wave podcast, explained in the New York Times in 2019. She has power on her own terms, and because of that, she is, I believe, the ultimate feminist icon. What do you think about that? This is the other part of this that I wanted to touch on. That's why I called it the New Age witches, because this don't have nothing to do with what the actual thing is. This is like political. This is like the Me Too. This is like the feminist movement taking over. And so the chicks wear the little signals that make it look like they're a witch. They label themselves as a witch, but really it's a political statement of being like a feminist against the patriarchy. No men suck. We don't need them. What do you think?
Potentially, but you're saying like the opposite of what, you know, we're seeing as far as the society going up against the witch. This is more so the witch taking their stance of the you know, their own power and saying screw the people, you know, like anybody that goes against what they're saying.
Well, this is a flip. This is the New Age witch. This is the flip on it. It's political. It's about being a feminist, and they identify as a witch. And you see them. They walk around. This is something you can see if you look. And they wear these necklaces and stuff, like different, even their outfits. And it's like, I'm a witch. You know what I'm saying? But they don't know nothing about what being a witch is. They don't know nothing about the elements. They don't know nothing about what people would call voodoo or anything. They don't know any of that.
They don't have any kind of high signs or
none of that. They just on this political thing of feminism, and they're using the witch as their like symbol to identify politically. We don't need men. So the witch symbol now, it stands for we don't need men. No men at all.
Yeah, that's sick. I mean, that's just as bad as, men saying that they don't need women. You know, uh, those, what's this, the MGTOW, whatever the hell them dudes are. I mean, that's just as bad. I mean, any extreme is really not healthy for anybody. So I don't know. I'd say they definitely are misguided. They need to get them some and shut the hell up. Because that's usually they crazy because not getting the balance of having a man around. Like, I mean, some people really start losing their mind because they don't have that, and like some people all their life never really had it, like the balance of seeing their mother with a man, like or consistently in the household, to where it's like they can have real balanced thoughts, or can see the benefits to how, if you never ever see the benefits of what a man can be, or is or can be, you're gonna always have, you're gonna have that, I guess your mindset is gonna be like, oh well, you get used to the idea that women have done everything. This is for on women, because I mean, of course, I'm sure it's hard for a boy to grow up and be like, oh, men ain't shit. Like, yeah, you are one. But for women, I can see like some of them get that way, but it's a sickness because they never had the real balance of family structure with a man and a woman around.
Really sad. I think the boy could grow up to hate men too. And I think it projects in their behavior towards women when they're abusive to women, and they feel like, man ain't shit anyway. So, I'm just gonna be ain't shit.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's a rare thing, because that's, to me, I think that most guys is just like, okay, you know what? Because I mean, I guess just like I had to, say it with my father, like we're all human, everybody messes up, and my job is to try to, do better than he did, and try to lead the world in a better place than I found it. So, if we all live that way, which I get, I mean, I know everybody don't think that way, but I would still say that there's a majority of people who do look at it that way than that don't.
Let me read some more of this. It says the seeds of this cultural shift were planted in the aftermath of the witch trials and bloomed in the era of modern American activism. On Halloween Day, 1968, a group of women dressed as stereotypical witches with brooms, capes, and pointy black hats descended on Lower Manhattan to hex Wall Street, calling themselves the Women's International Terrorist Conspiracy from Hell, Witch. They eventually targeted beauty pageants, universities, and the Playboy Club. And what did Witch think of marriage? They passed out leaflets with the warning, always a bride, never a person. The Witch Manifesto was also advanced for its time, a declaration that reads like it could have been written today. If you are a woman and dare to look within yourself, you are a witch. You make your own rules. You are free and beautiful. Witch branches formed across the country and even in Japan. One female organizer referred to the blending of witch iconography with the women's liberation movement of the late 1960s and early 70s as guerrilla theater, a way to reclaim their power. So you see, it's coming back. You notice have you seen bell bottoms? The bell bottoms are coming back. That was what, 70s? So this thing here was late 60s, early 70s. So the theme was, the witch iconography blended with the women's liberation movement.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. And that's what's happening now. I see it a lot. It's all over the place. And that's what be killing me, because then people be like, oh, she's a witch or whatever. And it's like, no, she's a feminist.
Clear cut.
There's a bit of a difference there.
Well, I mean, tomato, because I mean they have the same principles. I mean, they might go by a different word or different name, but I mean, if the it's just like if it looked like a duck, quack like a duck. I mean, most likely it's a duck. So I mean, if you got the same ideals and the principles of a feminist, I mean, even if you called yourself, a magician, like you still doing the same shit.
Let me read this. It says, symbolically, what was being protested against was clear: male hierarchies of power dating back to ancient times. Some scholars cite the Lilith story in Judaic and Mesopotamian mythology as a cradle of patriarchy. Lilith, Adam's first wife before Eve, was branded a she-demon and banished from the Garden of Eden for disobeying her husband. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, like I said, that's Lilith story is kind of a new thing for me. That's not something that I really knew much of before you started speaking on it, and so I mean, I don't really know much about that, but I would say that is a way for them to, because I mean, one of the common things in the Bible was how horrible women are. So, like, trying to demonize them, and then, I mean, I guess if they didn't want to give women the power. So I think just that, I don't know why it sounds like it really sounds like you're just ripping that book up to pieces.
It's Colin Pelz's mic. I'm right next to the mic. I'm flipping through the pages.
It's like I'm starting to feel bad for the book. Like, poor baby. Now, but I really don't. I don't know. Like, what's your main, like, your question about? Because you mentioned Lilith and Eve. What's the main?
It was because they were saying that's the root of the patriarchy, and they were citing it as an example of the reason why, the basis of the patriarchy, where the patriarchy gets its legitimacy from. And I think there's some truth to that, because the whole thing about Eve too, that she was made from Adam's rib, and it's like, okay, so she's lesser, and then the one that was equal to Eve, to Adam, she was a she-demon. She just won't listen. She won't submit to her man. And then Eve went and gave Adam the food from the apple from the tree of life, and she caused the original sin. These women just ain't no good. They just inherently bad.
Well, I mean, I would agree that is the first, like, symbolism of the patriarchy, but like I said, I mean, I'm sure that's the reason why that story came about, was to promote the patriarchy.
Yeah, exactly. So if they look at it like that, then maybe they can understand better. But still, I mean, you have to sympathize with their argument, because what happens is then the dudes always go back to the Bible. Everybody go back to the Bible. Oh yeah, you better submit to your man. She say it in the Bible. Man and a woman, marriage, household. That's the way it goes. It's in the Bible. Woman, you submit.
And I'd be like, well, what did they do before the Bible? How did they get to believe what they believed when they were putting it in the Bible? Well,
That's when you get smacked. Shut up, woman. Asking them questions. You don't know philosophical stuff. That's for men's to think about. If the pastor didn't say that, you better go read your Bible. That's what you should do. No, but really, what happened beforehand? You know, why we have to go by the Bible? Like, can we use some other book too? Shut up.
I heard somebody say that women are God. You done done it now, bitch.
Now you don't get to eat. I'm gonna lock you in the closet.
No,
funny, but
go kneel in the corner on that rice. And you sit there until I tell you to get up.
It's funny, but there's a lot of that shit going on out there. Let me read this. It says, for centuries, popular depictions of witches included cauldrons, craggy noses, and scary rituals. Not so today. In the 21st century, witches write bestseller books, host podcasts, and have hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. Search for the hashtag witches of Instagram, and you'll find more than 8.7 million posts. Airbnb organized a fall equinox ritual retreat in 2019, and the psychic services of industry is worth about $2 billion annually. Witchcraft is more than acceptable; it's practically mainstream. There are approximately 1.5 million practicing witches across the United States. That's as many members as the National Association of Realtors. In 2019, a week before Halloween, the New York Times ran a story with the headline, "When did everybody become a witch?" The story went on to proclaim that the time has come to come out of the so-called broom closet. So everybody's a witch now, apparently.
I guess.
It says, turbulent times have been cited as a contributing factor to witchcraft's soaring popularity. So too have changing attitudes toward traditional religion. Though Christianity is still the dominant belief in the U.S., there's also been a shift to more esoteric or pagan-based faiths, such as Wicca. Not all witches practice Wicca, and not all Wiccans or pagans practice witchcraft. In 2012, Pew Research study found that 31% of respondents under the age of 30 had doubts about the existence of God. In witchcraft, some young people have found a place of religious autonomy. It makes sense that witchcraft and the occult would rise as society becomes increasingly postmodern. Christian author Julie Roy wrote to the Christian Post in 2018. Plus, Wicca has effectively repackaged witchcraft for millennial consumption. No longer is witchcraft and paganism satanic and demonic. What you think? Am I losing you?
I'm hearing you, but at the same time, yeah, it's getting a little late for me.
All right.
Yeah, I'm kind of falling out of here.
Fading out. I want to read this. You want to step out right now? I mean, you want to call it quits right now?
I probably should, man. I'm falling asleep and shit. You know?
Yeah, it's almost 1. It's right about 1 a.m.
Yeah, it's 2 here, so
I gotta get up too. I can't stay on here too long because I got to go to class and I gotta take Kenzie to school. But I want to cover some more stuff before I leave, though.
For sure, man. I'll be back at it tomorrow.
All right, man.
All right, man.
Peace and love, man. Get you some rest.
Peace and love. Peace.
All right. Let me read this. It says, these are dispelling myths. Most of what we think we know about witches is wrong. Witches always wear black. Some witches like and wear the color black, but they do not wear it 24/7, if at all. A contemporary emphasis on beauty lends itself to a burst of different colors and accessories. Modern witches often adorn their clothing with tokens that venerate goddesses such as Artemis. Jewelry can be decorative, talismanic, and devotional. And in my case, it's usually all three at the same time. Pam Grossman, author of What is a Witch, told Bustle in 2019. However, in her 1978 book, Witchcraft for Tomorrow, Doreen Valiente, a founder of Modern Wicca, writes, the traditional attire of witches is generally believed to be nudity. I think that last part is more closer to right. Let me read another one. It says, witches are evil. Though the fear persists, the vast majority of witches are not evil. As delineated in the 1998 Witch Encyclopedia, Wicca A to Z, the negative misconception that witchcraft is diabolic has caused many followers to stop referring to themselves as witches and go by Wiccans. Instead, Wicca opposes the use of harmful magic and does not advocate people hurting others physically or emotionally, per witchcraft expert Raymond Buckland in his book Wicca for Life, 2003. Evil people casting evil spells is more a product of their own psychological makeup and less a principle within the practice of witchcraft. This one says, witches all own a black cat. According to Greek mythology, Hecate, the goddess of magic, the moon in witchcraft, used polecats as familiars, supernatural beings that aid witches. On June 13, 1233, Pope Gregory IX issued his Vox in Roma edict, which promulgated that cats were the incarnation of Satan. Witches honored the natural world, having deep respect for plants and animals. Wiccan priests carried Wynn Fellingstar told History.com. Affection between human and animal therefore began to be seen as diabolical or devilish. How witches came to be tied to black cats is not known, but one possibility is due to the fact that they are harder to see at night. Witches curse enemies. One of the main tenets of the modern pagan religion Wicca is the rule of three, which holds that 3 times that thou givest returns to thee, which many witches point out applies to negative magic as well. Many witches prefer to spell magic with the K at the end to differentiate it from stage magic. In other words, if you curse your enemy, said curse would come back and bite you. Therefore, many practicing witches steer clear of them. Witchcraft equals Satanism. According to the book Wiccan Beliefs and Practices, 2001, notions of the devil and hell are concepts of Christian theology and don't exist in the Wiccan religion. A British male witch who calls himself Meridine once told the BBC, we don't do anything sinister like devil worship, and we don't make human or animal sacrifices. Wiccans also believe in the existence of many gods and goddesses. This makes Wicca more akin to Buddhism and Hinduism as a polytheistic religion. Witches are all female. Around the world, there are millions of male witches, Wiccan practitioners or otherwise. Even during the era of fear and persecution of approximately 25% of people accused of witchcraft were male. In Iceland, from 1625 to 1685, over 90% of people persecuted for witchcraft were men, and 6 of the 20 accused witches executed in the Salem witch trials were men. Today, the once ambiguous term warlock for a male witch has fallen into disuse and even been disputed entirely, in part because many female witches feel the use of the term will genderize the witchcraft community, especially to outsiders. Witches are all alike. The term witch is an all-encompassing word for a practitioner of several different disciplines within witchcraft. Though they share a common history of persecution, not two witches are alike. There are men, women, and members of the LGBTQ community who consider themselves witches. Contemporary witches are also often members of other marginalized groups. Witches only cast spells for bad things. In short, no, in fact, throughout history, many people have turned to witches for exact opposite, love spells. One such spell involves carving the name and birth date of the intended lover into a candle burned for 7 days. Witches also cast spells for good things like passing a test or getting a promotion. Furthermore, Wiccan spells often focus on healing, protection, and fertility. Famous modern witch Pam Grossman keeps a copy of the Constitution on her altar next to her talisman and candles to keep the United States safe from darkness. This one says, witches all belong to a coven. A witchcraft has stepped into greater acceptance. The need for covens has become casual. Covens still form as a defense against societal scorn, yet not all witches belong to one. Many witches prefer to practice on their own. Plus, a solo practitioner can guide hundreds of thousands of witches via social media, making the need for an in-person coven obsolete. Many witches also wish to maintain privacy and keep their practices secret without any fear of misunderstanding or backlash. Interesting. The story of witches. From the shadows of troublesome history, witchcraft has survived, evolved, and flourished. This is the story of witches, a phenomenon with roots that extend all over the world, and practitioners, fictitious and real, ancient and modern, who live by a code that encourage good deeds, fair treatment, and living peacefully with the natural world. Nice, nice, nice. This was that. That's what we're reading. I think that was pretty good. I want to go to this video and catch my breath.
Haitian Vodou emerged in the 1600s within communities of enslaved Africans who were forced to the island of Hispaniola, which is today 2 countries, Haiti on the western third and the Dominican Republic on the eastern 2/3. People from all over West and West Central Africa were forced to Caribbean plantations. Some of the largest populations that ended up on Hispaniola came from the regions roughly around modern-day Benin and western Nigeria, including the Fon and Ewe people, as well as various Yoruba-speaking ethnic groups. Congo communities from Central Africa also played a significant role in Haiti's demographic makeup. To this day, Vodou practitioners speak of their ancestral homelands in Africa as Guinea, and this is a major part of their mythology and practice. As you'll see throughout this video, many of the terms for spirits and practices within Vodou derive from African language and culture. France gained control of the western third of Hispaniola in 1659 and formed the colony Saint-Domingue. This quickly became one of France's most profitable and most brutal colonies, producing the raw goods that helped to build European wealth and infrastructure. By the late 17th and early 18th centuries, hundreds of thousands of Africans were enslaved in this colony, who continued their religious traditions from their homeland, increasingly blending with Catholic Christianity. As we'll examine later in this video, some of this blending occurred from Africans who brought Africanized versions of Catholicism from the continent. After all, Christianity had already been introduced to West Central Africa centuries before by the Portuguese. But this blending also occurred by force under the colonial rulers, especially in 1685 when King Louis XIV issued the Code Noir, which set rules for the treatment of enslaved people and also decreed that missionaries should try converting them to Christianity. Vodou played a major role in throwing off colonial rule during the Haitian Revolution. On the night of August 14th, 1791, a group of enslaved Africans met at Bois Caillaman, or Alligator Forest, for what has been variously described as both a political rally and a religious ceremony led by a Vodou priest, Dati Boukman, and priestess Cecile Fatiman. They made an offering of a wild boar to the spirits and made a blood pact to win their freedom. Historians have described this night as the start of the Haitian Revolution. War broke out all over the colony, and over a decade later, the rebelling captives finally won their freedom, declaring their independence on January 1st, 1804. The Haitian Revolution was the only successful slave revolt in Atlantic history to have resulted in the establishment of a new nation and a black republic. Since independence, African-derived beliefs and practices have held a precarious position in Haitian society. In 1814, the second president of Haiti outlawed many Vodou practices. However, more recently, in 2003, the newly elected Haitian president and former priest, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, controversially decreed Vodou as an official religion of Haiti, along with Catholicism. Nevertheless, Vodou practitioners today are in conflict with a growing population of evangelical Christians who characterize Vodou practice as demonic and cast the Bois Caillaman ceremony as a blood pact with Satan instead of a proud national story. Haitian Vodou itself has spread outside of Haiti as well. According to some scholars, Little Haiti and Inner Miami remains the densest concentration of Haitians outside of Haiti. Some estimate that around 200 Vodou priests and priestesses live in South Florida. Boston, New York, and Montreal have also become centers for Vodou practice because of their large Haitian immigrant populations. Some of these congregations have even been attracting converts from other populations, including practitioners of new religious movements like Wicca. So there's a basic history, but what about the basic beliefs of Haitian Vodou? In Haitian Vodou, there is one supreme God called Bon Dieu, French for the good God. Since there are a lot of points of contact between Vodou and Catholicism, many Haitians equate Bon Dieu with God the Father in Catholic theology, he who created the universe. But the primary way Vodouisans interact with the divine is through a pantheon of spirits called Loa. So who or what are the Loa?
The Loa are divine energies. They are principles, they are entities that guide the world forward. And I think that, historically speaking, yes, they have been described as saints. That's not entirely wrong, but it's also really not entirely correct. The Loa are energies often of nature and also of the human realm. They work with and under Bon Dieu in Haitian Vodou. Bon Dieu is God, the supreme God, and if you will, underneath, but also in tandem with God, are the Loa, who are the ones who interact most intimately with humans. People don't typically pray to Bon Dieu except to ask for just, magnificent strength, in times of great desperation and need. Vodouisans are more often interacting with the Loa. And sometimes they will refer to them using different terms. And I think these different terms are really illuminating. So sometimes they'll refer to them as Saint-Yo, the saints. Sometimes they'll refer to them as Mystère, as mysteries. Sometimes they'll refer to them as Invisible, the invisible ones. All of these terms are accurate.
So the Loa are spirits, and they also go by other names derived from Catholic terminology, such as saints or angels. The Loa fall under several categories or nations. The prominent nations of Loa are the Rada, the Petwo, and the Gede. The Rada nation are the ancestral spirits associated with Vodun spirits from Benin. Some prominent Loa in this nation include Papa Legba, the gate opener, Don Bala, a spirit represented by a serpent who is considered a kind and loving spirit and often called upon for help, and Ezi Lifreda, a Loa of femininity, womanhood, sexuality, prosperity, and fortune. The Rada nation of spirits are generally considered to be cool and serene spirits and are often associated with water, rather than the more hot and volatile spirits of the Petwo nation. The Petwo spirits include some Congo spirits, such as Simbi, which derives from the word for spirit in the ancient Congo language. The Petwo spirits also include some Haitian-born figures, including heroes of the Haitian Revolution that have achieved status as Loa. There's also the Gede nation, the spirits of death, fertility, and regeneration. The Baron Samedi is probably the most famous Loa in this nation, commonly depicted as a fancy skeletal man dressed in a top hat and a coat with tails. The Baron is the lord of the cemetery, also the lord of the dead, and his assistants are the irreverent Gede spirits.
But there are, in fact, said to be 21 nations. Now, I love this because it's very difficult to ask somebody to name all 21 nations. There are some who have, but it's rare. It comes with great knowledge. Usually people can name about 12 to 15. And I would say that some of the most principal nations are Rada, Petwo, and then you have the Gede nation, which is also referred to as a family of spirits. These are the spirits of the dead and life, death, and sexuality. Then you have the Juba nation, the agricultural spirits. That's a much smaller nation. And typically we understand that these nations were linked, in fact, with African origins. So you have, for instance, the Wongol nation, which is Angola, and the Congo nation, which was ancient Congo. You have the Senegal nation. These spirits, when they come in ceremony, are said to speak Arabic, and they pray in a fashion on the floor, which I think is just fascinating and really reveals the way that these nations of spirits were serving as, yes, categories and families of spirits connected to different African lineages. And so Haitians in the South, I will note in particular, because there are variations between Northern and Southern Vodou, but in the South especially, you serve all 21 nations. And that's important because the idea is you're serving all of your African heritage.
As you can gather from this discussion with Dr. Daniels, there are many Loa, way too many to mention in this video. But it's key to know that the Loa, also known as the spirits and as the saints, are central to Vodou belief and practice. So what about ritual practices in Haitian Vodou? We can summarize practice with the phrase serving the Loa, or Sevi Loa. So what does this mean?
People can misunderstand it to mean I am a servant of the spirits. Not true. It is really about reciprocity. And that, I think, is fundamental to understanding Africana religions, both on the continent and in the African diaspora. When you enter into these relationships with spirit formally through initiation, you are devoting yourself to providing offerings, to reciting their names, to, singing songs that honor their legacy, to maintaining the heritage that you have been instilled with. In turn, you will be protected by the spirits. You will be cared for by the spirits. You will be guided by the spirits. They will not leave you. They will not neglect you. And so it's a reciprocal and dynamic relationship. And that is essential. And we are meant to serve them, to honor our African legacy and our African heritage, and also to be guided and protected by them. So to say Moi Sevi Loa is really about reciprocity.
So serving the Loa encompasses a whole constellation of ritual practices that not only aim to honor the spirits, but also maintain a reciprocal relationship with them. Loa have favorite foods, favorite colors, favorite dances and music that you can offer them in ceremony. Typically, these ceremonies are held on annual saints' days, and in Creole, they're sometimes called a Fête Loa or a Fiesta del Santo by Spanish-speaking communities of Haitian heritage in Cuba or the Dominican Republic. These fête or fiestas or parties for the spirits invite the presence of the Loa through singing, drumming, dancing, and offering the spirits their favorite food and drink. Generally speaking, practitioners wear white for the spirits, but this can change based on the Loa being honored. For example, for those attending the November party honoring the Baron Samedi and his Gade, you usually dress in the colors black and purple and offer him spicy rum. Moreover, the dances and rhythms change depending on the spirit.
Rhythms are associated with each nation and with each family of spirits. And some of them make a great, they're quite intuitive. So for instance, again, going back to our Nago family associated with the Yoruba spirits, our warrior spirits, their dance looks militaristic. The rhythm itself is rather staccato, like a marching, band, if you will, or a marching group of soldiers, and it's militaristic movements. The movements for the water spirits, specifically the Gada water spirits, look like you're rocking in a boat. And so you have these different ones that are very intuitive. Then there are others, Betuo is hot, so it's a very swift dance. It's a very swift rhythm. Gada is a little bit cooler, and you dance like a serpent, like a snake, because this again comes from the Fodun tradition, where Dan led to our Dambala, who is the eternal wise cosmic serpent.
Ceremonies are led by ordained priests called Ungan and priestesses called Manbo. However, Ungan and Manbo are relatively autonomous. There's no officially sanctioned clerical hierarchy like what we see in Catholicism, and they fulfill all sorts of roles in their communities. Not only are they trained to guide ritual services and initiate other priests and priestesses, but many also have what you could call a consulting practice. For example, you can consult an Ungan or Manbo for advice, divination, or to provide an amulet or herbal prescription. Vodou services are held at temples called Unfo. These are sometimes a single building or a compound with an open space called a peristyle, featuring a central pole or tree called a potomitan. You might also see eclectic altars, holding all sorts of offerings for the Loa, such as images, candles, flowers, or food and drink. And speaking of food, if you look into Haitian Vodou practice, you might come across descriptions of animal sacrifice. But this terminology is somewhat misleading. One way we could describe this is you typically serve food at a wedding, at a birthday, at Christmas or Thanksgiving, at a funeral, and that often includes meat. So it makes sense that a party for the spirits would include specific food for specific times of year. And especially in a place like rural Haiti, it's not odd to raise and butcher your own animals, just as you would on a farm. So in many respects, this term animal sacrifice is simply referring to an animal being butchered for the spirit, and in such a way that you can make a particular dish to feed the whole community.
And I think it's important here to note, everybody likes to talk about, sacrifice, The preparations that go into making food for Vodou ceremonies feeds the entire community. It is presented on the altar table to the spirits, to the Loa, and then it feeds the entire community. And so it is not something done in vain. It is the same style of preparation that kosher or halal meat undergoes. The animal is prayed over. The animal is blessed. The animal is asked permission to become an offering to the spirits. I don't like to use the word sacrifice. I like to use the word offering because that's really what it is. It is an offering to the spirits, and then it feeds the community.
So from these examples, we can see that serving the Loa is communal, intimate, and reciprocal. Dancing and drumming are done for the Loa. You can offer them their favorite food and drink. You can leave gifts for them on altars. But the ultimate example of this intimacy and reciprocity is a practice somewhat misleadingly called trance-possession. I say misleading because that word possession carries a lot of baggage from Christianity. In Christianity, possession usually refers to demonic possession, a demon invading a human body. But in Haitian Vodou, it's believed that during a ceremony, during the drumming and dancing, the Loa can be invited into your body. Rather than a negative bodily invasion, this is viewed as an honor. Vodou practitioners don't use the term transpossession. They use the analogy of riding a horse or ritual mounting. The practitioner temporarily becomes a horse or shawal as the spirit mounts them.
I really dislike the term trance. I really dislike the term transpossession. The term that we use is ritual mounting. And it's the term that they use in Creole itself. And interestingly, in Yoruba, when people talk about mounting, they use the word in Yoruba that means mount as if to ride a horse. So in Creole, same thing. Loa monte chouali. The spirit mounts its horse. Sometimes many spirits come at once. That means a ceremony is very hot. That means the drums are working. The songs are working. The dances are working. So in ceremony, you can have spirits come and they'll deliver messages. You need to be more respectful of your mother. You need to offer us blah, 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 blah. What you should do is da-da-da-da-da-da. Make sure that you da-da-da-da-da.
So this is what I mean by communal and reciprocal. Mounting by a Loa plays an important social role that involves the whole community. Devotees invite the Loa to visit, to honor the community with their presence. In return, the spirit communicates with the congregation, sometimes by performing divinations, healings, or offering advice. Once the Loa arrives, as far as the practitioners are concerned, the person mounted has become a vessel for the spirit. The spirit has temporarily pushed aside the human soul to make room for the spirit. And everything the person does is the spirit acting or speaking through them. Now, not all ritual mountings are the same. Zaka, the patron Loa of agriculture, is thought to be a rustic peasant. Thus, when someone is said to be mounted by Zaka, they act and speak like a country farmer. Those mounted by Dambala, the serpent Loa, will act like a snake. Papa Legba may appear hunched over like an old man using a crutch. All of these practices categorized under the phrase serving the Loa demonstrate the character of Vodou practice. Vodou practice is not transcendent or abstract. The Loa are believed to be immanent. They're thought to participate in the community, and ritual practice often involves very intimate communion with them. Let's turn now to Vodou identity and community. As I said earlier, practitioners are called Vodouizan. I've also seen it anglicized as Vodouists, but your average practitioner might never use those terms. Some might, but others might just say, I serve the Loa, and of course I'm a good Catholic. Vodou practitioners generally see no conflict between being a good Catholic and also a devotee of African-derived religions. And we see this blending in Vodou practice as well. Catholic prayers are recited at Vodou ceremonies, including the Our Father, the Hail Mary, as well as the Apostles' Creed, usually a cappella without drums. The Loa are also equated with specific Catholic saints. Dambala is equated with St. Patrick, Ogu with St. James. Moreover, the Catholic liturgical calendar tracks closely with the Vodou calendar. Some Vodou practitioners regularly attend Catholic Mass, while many others only attend on big holidays, especially ones that involve an event or a pilgrimage. The biggest pilgrimages are held on saints' days, such as the biggest public Vodou event, Sodo, which is derived from the French word for waterfall. Celebrated on the yearly festival of Our Lady of Carmel in July, this festival regularly attracts over 10,000 people and involves a pilgrimage to a waterfall in central Haiti. On one hand, this blending with Catholic belief and practice is the result of long colonial history in Haiti, but this is not the whole story. Africans were already introduced to Catholicism in the 15th century, especially within the royal house in the Kingdom of Congo.
King Nzinga Nkuwu converts to Catholicism in 1491. A year before Columbus arrives in the Americas, King Nzinga Nkuwu converts to Catholicism and becomes King João I. What is less discussed is that he then reverts to indigenous religion again. He goes back to his ancestral religion. But he has two sons who battle over the kingdom. These two sons battle over the kingdom after his death in the early 1500s. And one of his sons, to become representing indigenous religion, loses the battle to his brother who represents Catholicism. The brother has become converted, and in 1509, King Afonso I converts the Kingdom of Congo to Catholicism. What does that mean? That means that Central Africa has been blending Catholicism with ancestral religions for 500 years. What takes place is an Africanizing of Catholicism.
So, Haitian Vodou, in part, is the result of the Africanizing of Catholicism, and Africa is central to Vodou identity and heritage. The name African diaspora religion draws our attention to what it means to practice a religion in the Americas, knowing that your ancestors were from Africa.
Some people are more familiar with the notion and concept of Jewish diaspora. And so it's helpful to understand that diaspora very much is about memory. And so people who are in the Caribbean, people who are in Latin America, people who are in the United States, and who are involved in these traditions, oftentimes are thinking about Africa cosmologically as an important icon. That's exactly what historian of religion Charles Long explains. Africa serves as symbol, as metaphor, as homeland, not for every African descended community in the Americas, but for many.
So for the Vodou practitioner, Africa is not just a place. Africa is an icon. Africa is a symbol. Africa, in some sense, is a cosmological homeland. In future episodes, we'll examine more African-derived religions. But in the meantime, I want to thank our...
Yeah, I had to play that whole thing. It's really good. I'm sorry. Hopefully y'all learned something. I want to read some comments. Where did I stop earlier? Let me see. It says, I really like this one. Dr. Daniels is simply captivating and really passionate about the subject. I'm usually not one to ask for content, but I would love to see you talk about Spiritism and its success in Brazil, and maybe about Umbanda later on, a uniquely Brazilian religion from the 1930s. I ask only because you're the best on the platform. Thanks. Let me read some more. As a Dominican, this is so nice to watch. We don't learn about this at all, despite the amount of Haitians that live here, and they're literally our neighbor country. We often just say their religions are of the devil, but we couldn't be more wrong. Thank you so much for this video. This guy is a Dominican. I'm gonna read another one. It says, that's amazing. Haitian voodoo is really beautiful, and there's so much similarities to Afro-Brazilian candomblé. The rites are different based on the nations. Instead of Lua, the Hehe, Efan people nation has the Vodouns. The Ketu Nagu Yoruba people nation has the Orixas or Orishas. The Angola Bantu people such as Congo, Ubandu, and Kimbundu nation has the Nikisi. Their dance offerings, the mounting. In Portuguese, we use the word incorporation. And tons of very similar aspects. Really interesting. Let me read some more. Great video. Could you do a video on Mexican indigenous religions getting mixed into their Catholicism? I think it could be an interesting topic. This was very well done. Love content on Africa and African diaspora religions. Thanks. Ayibobo, as an initiated voodoo saint, many videos don't do voodoo justice or even pronounce things right, let alone do all the research you did. Thank you. I'm telling y'all, this video is really good. You hear what these people are saying. It says, thanks for the introduction to much represented and misunderstood religion. Up to this point, my only introduction to this subject was William Gibson's sci-fi novels. Episodes like this, I hope, will bring greater understanding about people's cherished beliefs. Thanks, Andrew. I've learned a lot from this video. There's one more interesting cultural connection in Haitian voodoo to Poland, of all places. Twice in the video, at 151 and 715, we can see depictions of Loa, Elizabeth Dunter, I believe, that are clearly inspired by the depictions of the Virgin Mary in Catholic art, but they are specifically based on the Madonna of Czechoslovakia, icon from Poland. The mysterious double scars on her cheek being the most characteristic detail. At 5:30, we can see a painting by January Szydłowski depicting Polish soldiers fighting against Haitians. Recently, History with Hilbert made a video explaining the complicated story of how did Poles end up in Haiti as part of the French expedition in the final stage of the revolution, and while they were viewed much more positively than the French by the locals, in the end, some of them even staying and forming a community independent Haiti. In an independent Haiti. That's interesting. I never heard that, and I've done a pretty good amount of studying. I think I remember a little bit, but I don't. Maybe it'll come back to me. I had to have heard this before, but right now it sounds foreign. But I don't disbelieve it at all. Super interesting. And then he's talking about based on the Madonna of Czestochowa, the Madonna of Czestochowa, icon from Poland. See, I never heard that before, but like the Black Madonna or whatever, I have. And that picture, when I was watching the video, that caught my eye too, and I noticed it. And they talk about the image of the Black Madonna and the Catholics having these same photos in there. Super interesting. How much of Catholicism is African? Let me read some more. It says, I'm doing a presentation on Vodou in my music history class, and I really appreciate this video. Many others has comments about inaccuracies and racism. I felt like I learned the correct things to teach my classmates. Thank you. When Dr. Kraya Malik Daniels refers to Vodou offerings as reciprocal instead of transactional, it hit me how that's a much less demanding word for it. I don't know how many have heard transactional to describe polytheistic practice. I give gods this thing, they give me blessings. But I feel like that's kind of a demeaning way to look at it. Classes try to explain Greek and other European pagan religions that way, and I feel that they might be a bit of convention from Christian historians and theologians who are demeaning these faiths either inadvertently or on purpose, trying to make it look more worldly and less divine. The use of the word reciprocal really makes it feel less like striking a deal and more like respecting one another. And I thought that was a beautiful sentiment towards polytheism. Another comment. Great job with this one. Would love to see more about indigenous Hispanic America similarly mesh Catholicism with indigenous beliefs to have the adoption of imported religion more palatable. Another comment that says, okay, but I absolutely love Dr. Kara's passion and energy. She reminds me of those cool teachers in school. You'd have to make you excited to learn something and get so invested in what you were learning that day. Love the religion for breakfast, but I'm switching to her class. In college, I did a research project on Beninois, Vodun, and Haitian Vodou, and it was so interesting. There were so many layers and nuances that I never would have imagined based on pop culture depictions. We're so ignorant to everything, but there's a reason for that. Let me read some more. It says, as a years-long fan of your channel and decades-long servitor, I was a bit nervous when I saw this episode pop up, but I want to thank you for doing such a beautiful job. I've learned something new, the history of Congolese Catholicism. I especially appreciate the comparison of Manhe Iwa with kosher and halal practices. I've been making that comparison for years and was so happy to hear someone else make that comparison and to share with a broad audience. Thank you. Hey, Bobo. Another comment. I've been following your channel for a long time. I'm astonished about the amount of research you put into all of your videos, especially this one. I was born and raised in Haiti and currently live in Miami. And I was raised Christian. Vodou was very taboo around my family circle. Thank you for acknowledging the current situation in Haiti and using your platform to help and educate others. There was another clip from the video that stuck out to me, is the part where he was talking about Miami, and it was showing how beautiful the city was, and they were talking about this a large amount of Haitians there. And I couldn't help but to, in my mind, like a tear shedded in my inside, I was thinking that Haiti should look like that. And you think about all of the freaking resources. You know, Hispaniola was the most profitable colony, like ridiculous amount of money. And how did they build all that stuff? How did you think they built Europe, the Americas, the rest of this stuff? Come on, man. See, this stuff gets me emotional and it gets people mad when you mention it, but there's a reason why Haiti is so poor. The wealth is right over there in Miami. That shit should be, that's how Haiti should look. Anyways, let me move on before I just keep just going on and on that. They're kind of going over the same stuff. As someone involved in Candomblé and who also served the spirits, I'm very happy for this. Thank you for speaking about our spirituality with truth and respect. Messi Mezanmi Ayibobo. I love Dr. Daniel's passion. Never expected you to do a video on voodoo, but thank you. So everybody's just okay. Anyways, what do y'all think? Y'all like that? I think that's a really cool topic. I had more in that direction. Let me see. I'm getting tired though, so I'm probably finna wrap it, but let me see something. Chile. Democrats funding the far right. Childhood trauma leads to addiction. Failed moon launches. Wall Street killing grandmas. The shit about the fucking I'm gonna cover that tomorrow because I want to talk about that. It says America's prescription drug cartel. Definitely want to cover that tomorrow. Oh wait, let's do some art before we go. One second. Let's do an art segment.
The scene because everyone's dressed so elegantly and drinking and eating the most delicious looking food and having a great time because the colors are so vibrant and warm and the weather looks perfect and you think it would feel like heaven to be transported to this place, if only for a moment. Well, this is not one of those paintings. This piece is called The Roses of Heliogabalus by British-Dutch artist Sir Lawrence Alma-Tadema. The title makes sense. There are definitely a lot of rose petals. Maybe too many when you think about it. This painting depicts a banquet put on by Roman Emperor Heliogabalus, also known as Elagabalus. Although Alma-Tadema created this piece in 1888, the scene took place in the early 200s AD, and since the story of this banquet persisted over 6 centuries, you know it must have been an absolute banger. To me, this painting screams leisure and extravagance. Some of the guests are seated at the table in the background. Some are lounging in the foreground. Roses and rose petals are being released from a faux ceiling above, and it's obvious that some are surprised by this, while others are not. Our eyes are drawn to the golden figure just left of center. This is Heliogabalus, who became emperor in the year 218 AD thanks to a coup orchestrated by his mother, seated to the right of him, and his grandmother, that overturned the previous emperor. He was known for being excessive, especially when hosting, and this was one of his most memorable parties. But if you look closely at the faces of the guests in the foreground, things begin to take a turn. Everyone's kind of freaking out. And for good reason. Heliogabalus isn't showering them in riches. He's suffocating them. Some of them are already succumbing to the effects of asphyxiation, while others are just discovering their fate. There's a woman with a pomegranate in her hand looking squarely at us, with a helpless, confused look on her face, as if she's still processing what's going on. The scene goes from light and airy to heavy and ominous very quickly. Well, the emperor must be losing his mind. This must be a terrible mistake. He probably just meant to surprise them with a beautiful rose shower and accidentally added too many, right? Wrong. He seems pretty pleased about it. Is he a psychopath? Is everyone here a psychopath? Well, maybe. When I really looked at this painting, I found myself naturally following the line of sight of the guests at the table to see exactly what they were looking at. Some of them seemed to be staring straight into the eyes of those who were moments away from their death, begging for their lives. Perhaps the most chilling is Heliogabalus himself. He has a smug and satisfied look on his face. He's lying down, like someone would do if they were reading a book, not committing cold-blooded murder. This relaxed posture makes him appear all the more psychotic. In the background, we see a woman playing the double pipes and a statue of Dionysus, the god of wine, pleasure, festivity, and madness. How fitting. To me, this painting feels like we're momentarily being given the eyes of a mentally disturbed individual. People are dying, but everything is just bright and cheery, like we don't have a care in the world, even though there's a massacre going on. So who is Heliogabalus, and why is he so hot? No, I'm just kidding. But apparently people did think that about him, which is honestly really creepy given he became emperor when he was only 14. Ew. It's hard to know what's fiction and what's fact when it comes to this person who is the subject of many over-the-top stories. He was accused of child sacrifice and apparently only selected children that had 2 living parents for maximum anguish. Some said that he attempted a revolution in the structure of the Roman state by replacing the god Jupiter with Elagabal, the god that was his namesake. It just gets more interesting from here. It was rumored that he selected his advisors based on their genital size. Interesting. He apparently established an all-female Senate, which was utter absurdity at that time. He was also said to have gone against binary gender norms and was possibly the first trans emperor. Although I've referred to Heliogabalus as he, historians disagree on whether the emperor would have preferred he, she, or they. It's rumored that Heliogabalus asked to be addressed as a woman in one instance and requested a surgical transition. Shockingly, Heliogabalus allegedly never wore the same pair of shoes twice. I mean, how is that even possible? And if you're wondering how a teenager even has the capacity to do all of these things, don't worry. His juvenile humor was definitely on display as well. Heliogabalus apparently did things like serve food all in one color to party guests, like all orange food or all green food, or inviting all the same type of guests, like all one-eyed guests, or all men that he considered to be fat so they could barely all fit at the table together. He would let tame lions into the dining room once all of his guests had gotten so drunk that they were practically comatose. Once they came to, many of them reportedly died of shock. There were stories of him inviting lots of guests to one of his banquets and serving real food only to the elites and fake food made of wood or wax to everyone else. So it looked like real food to them until they bit into it. He was also said to have been the first in recorded history to have used the whoopee cushion on his guests at dinner parties. During the time of year Alma Tadema painted this piece in the late 1800s, roses were out of season. He was said to have imported 2 boxes of roses from France to London on a weekly basis until the painting was complete. The artist was determined to make the piece look realistic, and in true Heliogabalus style, it was extremely expensive. Writer Antonin Artaud said, "The entire life of Heliogabalus is anarchy in action, fire, gesture, blood, cry, fanatical, a real king, a rebel, a crazed individualist." Heliogabalus only ruled for 4 short years, but during this time, he somehow managed to have 4 wives, one of whom was a Vestal virgin, a very big no-no. After his quick reign, his grandmother had seen enough and arranged to have him assassinated and replaced by his young cousin, Severus Alexander, who was only 13 at the time. I guess they didn't learn the last go-round. He was actually killed in a latrine, which is basically ye old toilet. History has largely painted Heliogabalus as a cruel psychopath, but some believe all of these exaggerated stories were just a part of a big smear campaign by his cousin to justify the coup that led to him taking power. What do you think? I guess the moral of the story, if there is one, is that Granny can bring you up, but she can just as easily take you out. So I know Alma Tadema and Van Gogh are not the same artist. They look totally different. Their painting style was definitely not the same, but they were both Dutch and existed on planet Earth at the same time. So I created a coloring book called the Van Gogh Coloring Book, and it's for sale right now on Amazon. I'll include my affiliate link in a pinned comment down below.
Yep. Y'all buy her stuff because she makes good freaking YouTube videos. Y'all go support Art Deco. The caption underneath it says, "The piece called The Roses of Heliogabalus by British-Dutch artist Sir Lawrence Alma Tadema. This painting depicts a banquet put on by Roman Emperor Heliogabalus, also known as Elagabalus. Although this piece was created in 1888, the scene took place in the early 200s AD. Roses and rose petals are being released from a faux ceiling above, but if you look closely at the faces of the guests in the foreground, things are beginning to take a turn. This painting is not as enchanting as it seems." Let me read some comments. Another thing about the party goers in the background, there's a lot of contrast depicted and foreshadowing of this being a kind of crazed, debauched soiree, for the fact that the background aristocracy are all depicted with a lot of Bacchant Dionysian symbolism. The flutist you pointed out, for example, she's wearing animal skins, and the pudgier guest in the middle really has a striking resemblance to Dionysus. There are also grapes present. Dionysus represents that thin line between indulgence and debauchery wildness. So there's a fair bit of chaos in the foreground, whereas the background is quite composed and indulgent. It says, "Gods know I've never wanted to get into that painting even for a second. It's a horror story. By the way, Heliogabalus isn't lying down because he's chill. He's lying down because he's eating. Romans recline during meals, thus the cup in his hand. It sounds weird, but they believed it was the best position for digestion." Another comment. "Why do they stay lying down? They're petals, not rocks. Were they told to stay unless they wanted to be killed in other ways? I don't get it." I was wondering that same kind of thing. Like, I guess maybe if it happens all of a sudden and it's a whole bunch of, and they just bury you, and this is just a moment of like, it's still coming down and they can't really move. But yeah, I wonder that too. Like, hey, how the hell are you going to let somebody bury you with some rose petals? It seems like you should just move out of the way or something once it starts. Let me read some more. It says, I don't understand how they were suffocated by rose petals unless they were buried alive under them, unless they were drunk or otherwise drugged. The party victims in the painting could have moved away. Same thing I just said. So maybe they were drugged. They were drunk and drugged. Another one, it says, the video is nice and all, but I would have appreciated it more if you had described why the painting has a disturbing plot twist rather than what Heliogabalus was as a person. Well, that's probably why it has the plot twist, because of who he was as a person. You always got to have some negative say. Let me read some more. It says, the artist is not depicting a real event, it's depicting an urban legend that was likely false, that too many rose petals were released from a false ceiling and accidentally smothered party guests, and there's a 99.999% chance the tale was invented. The reason it looks so improbable in the painting is because it's depicting a scenario that probably could not happen in reality. Okay, there goes somebody making sense. That makes a lot of sense. Let me read some more. I thought the man sitting at the table, at the middle of the table, wearing the laurel wreath was Dionysius Bacchus. I wonder who it actually was supposed to be. It's very interesting that the people being smothered in the roses do not look upset. Most of them look calm, or they are even smiling slightly as if in a dream. They do not look terrified or even slightly miffed. Honestly, there are not enough rose petals to suffocate them. They could just stand up. Another comment. Very entertaining and interesting. Another plot twist in a seemingly innocent painting. Definitely didn't expect that. Also a nice and fun little history lesson. Loved it. Alma Tadema depicts Elagabalus smothering his unsuspecting guest with rose petals released from a false ceiling. The original reference is this. Opposite in Trichnilis Versatabilis. Oh shit, I can't read that. Eyes already blurry. It says, in a banquet room with a reversible ceiling, he once buried his guests in violets and other flowers so that some were actually smothered to death, being unable to crawl out of the top. First time hearing this story, it's hard to believe you could actually kill people with rose petals. I'm sure it would have to be a really, really big load of petals, a lot more than what I see in this picture. I'm also not sure I want to just accept this as a true story, as not even every story about the excesses of people from history always turns out to be actually true. Somebody already said that it's, and that would make sense, like it's a piece of propaganda, just like today. Back in the day, they would use a painting instead of TikTok. Anyways, y'all, that's all I have to do to clear that shit up. Peace and love. Thank y'all for joining. Thank y'all for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. I gotta get up in the morning. Peace.